What a show we got for you guys tonight. Thursday night, CrossFire. Guys, outstanding night for news. A little late-breaking news, too. Some of the quarterly financials have come in from Microsoft, which seems to already have the internet abuzz. But nonetheless, we've got a lot of topics to get to. I want to say shout out and thanks to everybody. We're here on it's Stellar Blade Eve night for a lot of you folks out there. I see a lot of you guys are excited about this game coming out. We're going to talk about that in depth, especially in the second hour of the show, as we have somebody that's coming later on that's fully played the game, reviewed it, and we will have zero spoilers. Don't even worry about that. There will be no spoilers tonight, but we will, in fact, talk about the game, the quality of the game, what you may or may not expect out of this game. And if you guys have any questions, of course, please do put them into the chat. That being said, I want to say, hit that like button, everybody. Let them know that we are live here in New York. We've got a great show for you. Hit that subscriber button. A lot of buttons. There's like, there's subscribe, there's the join button. There's a lot of buttons out there, folks. I just ask you hit one of them. That's all. That's all it really takes. Now, that being said, I do want to say this much. Shout out to each one of you guys out there in the chat right now with a green name tag. You guys are all Mooch Maniac family members, and it means the world to me. Shout out to Lotus Esprit as well as the great Mash for the gifts. We are somewhere around 35 to 40 gifts of memberships over the past 3 weeks. That is unbelievable, and I want to say thanks to those guys. It means the world to me. It means you get those great Mooch emotes there, those great things you can put out there. They're great. They're great. That's what they are. They're just great. That being said, if you look at that phenomenal description right there, that's at least a B+. Look at that. I mean, honestly, take a look at that. It gives you a synopsis, gives you a look into what we're going to be talking about tonight, guys. And right above that is that join button I was talking about just a second ago. It's how you become a part of the Mooch Maniac family members. I see El Nini out there. I see Lord Metroid, JC 2013. The great Jimmy Harrison is here. But let me call each one of these guys out. I see Ryzen Chanel. I'm going to say Chanel, even though it's Channel. Nonetheless. Says, what's up, Mooch? What's going on, Ryzen? Nice to see you here. I appreciate that. The great JudaZuk, WoolleyGamer, who's supposed to be joining us soon, MumbleRanting Gaming, Tyson Web 509, True Witty, Alfonso Carter, Brap, who will be joining us the second hour as well, Damien, the great Jimmy Harrison, Andy Hart, Red Hood 420, Ham Solo 05, Rob Jones, Night Ripper 7, Toto Dope, Thumbs, JC 2013, he's here, Lord Metroid, he's here right now, Rabbit Got the Gun, Fastbender, Archwar Angel, Biggity 08, Slow-Mo Backslap, who's also going to be joining us shortly, as well as the great Gaming Forte. You guys know they do DPS podcast Thursday nights, tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time, right after this show. Go over and check that show out right after Crossfire. Henry Heck, shout out to Henry Heck, Silent Merc, Ocelot, J-Row49, he's here, Anthony Dixon, Brieros, Neil S., Slayin Chilean, and of course, the great Dawn, Ice Queen Gaming. Shout out to Ice Queen Gaming. Great to always have conversation with her about gaming. RPG88 gifted one Mooch membership. Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. RPG, thank you for that gift. Means the world to me. RPG also joins Mooch at least 2 or 3 times a week as we do twitch.tv, Mooch TV. Drop the O's for zeros. It's M00CH. A lot of fun over there, guys. We have a blast. Just ask RPG. Don't take my word for it. Ask RPG Gaming. Our major Mooch Maniacs, T-Rock 40s joined the family. The Ruham, the Elemental Hero, Lucci Sky, Rash, Brian Cutler, Mad Joe, Giancarlos Sanchez, love the name, Ms. Phantom, El Nini, he's here, Scott Dove, Ryan Landis, Blake T, Kiri 86, C Fresh 2180, the great Jeff Grubb, JJ Jab, Rob 64, Chad Stud, Lotus Esprit. Again, thank you so much, Lotus. Really appreciate it. Josh Aries, Wizard 57, Kritopsy, Sweet Baby, Rick L, Moose One, who's here, Zero Steel, Composite Smurf, Capone, shout out to Capone 5150, Detective Seeds, guys, shout out to Detective Seeds. He's going to be joining us next week on the show. PS Rewind, pardon me, Cloud Strife, Abdul Alsfari, Just Wait, love the name, Just Wait. You already know that. Colin, by the way, just joins the family. He joined the major Mooch family members. Colin, welcome to the channel, buddy. Great to have Colin joining us. Colin, you'll be added to this list next week and be mentioned every single week from here on out. Warawana, Corey Massey, Brian East, Thrifty PS Gamer, Hero Down Under, CR Bruin, Mash, shout out to Mash again for all those great gifts. Ecam, Bitrape, RPG88, 4-Star General, Truth Serum, your boy Roy, Scolari Brothers, DC Gaming, Miko, Jay Bari, and Gaming with Persona. And by the way, guys, Gaming with Persona is going to be on the show very shortly. very shortly. He's joining us within the first hour. And you guys know that they do What's Up PlayStation. That's Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern. That's how I start my Saturday. That's how I recommend you guys start yours. Tactical Gamer, shout out to Tactical. Donnell Brown, Deck Guys Mini, our VIP, Mooch Maniacs, the Wise Old Gamer, Raji, Domino Zero, and our honorable mentions are out there without food, water, or toilet, come home. Delirium Blades, and General Thad Ape. That being said, I want to say shout out to the Forever Mooch Maniacs. That's Longshot 316 and the great Optimus Code. That being said, guys, and I feel it's worthy to always mention all of you great members every single week because it really does mean the world to me. We do one show here, and it's a great show. We do a great show, and you guys are all here every single week. You guys talk to me through PlayStation. You talk to me through Xbox. You talk to me through Steam. We talk games all the time, whether it be on those consoles or systems or PC platform or right here on YouTube. You guys mean the world to me. Thank you so much. That being said, we have an outstanding panel, and the panel's only going to continue to grow as we go through the show. That being said, you guys know him as the Messiah. I know him as Craig the Tech Guy. Craig, outstanding to have you back on the show, buddy. I'm so grateful for you being here tonight. How you doing tonight, Craig?
Doing well. No problem coming back. Thanks for the invite. And yeah, I got some pretty good topics. It's going to be here for about an hour. NFL drafts tonight. Have to see what the teams are going to do.
Sports!
But yeah. It's definitely going to do some sports later on. But yeah, some good topics here. We can get them done, and I'll give my opinion, and then I'll bounce like a check.
Well, listen, but listen. I love it. It's great too, Craig. You're like here. You go, Mooch. I got a take to tell you. He says it, and then bang, he's like, I gotta go. And he writes me later. He's like, Mooch, I gotta go. He's like, I got something. I got something going on. So shout out to Craig. I appreciate that, man. I love it. Yeah. Shout out also to Steady Flow. Steady Flow is in the chat right now. Steady Flow every single week. Steady, I see you every single week. Tweet out the show, and it means the world to me. So shout out to Steady Flows in the chat right now. And he let everybody know on Twitter that we are live. So I appreciate that more than you can imagine. Speaking of that, this one gentleman literally says to me earlier today, Mooch, I'm going to be there. I swear I'm going to be on the show, but I'm probably going to be about an hour late. He wasn't an hour late. He was actually just about 5 minutes late, which, to be honest with you, in New York, you're right on time. The great Gamers Gamut's here with us tonight, guys. Gamut, welcome back to the show, buddy. How you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here. Just even a broken watch is right twice a day, right? So sometimes we all catch the W on accident,
Buddy, it's just good to have you here. I know your gaming takes are they're hot and wild, buddy. They're gonna be hot and wild tonight. I know you're gonna just absolutely stun the audience, buddy. So I can't wait to hear what you got to say. Great Gamers Gamut's with us, and last but certainly not least, right now, guys, we've got the great creative Kofi with us. Kofi, I reached out to you 2 weeks ago. We tried to make this happen. I had my people reach out to your people. And we finally got this thing organized. Kofi, welcome back to Crossfire, buddy. How you doing tonight?
Man, I feel fantastic. Apparently, since everyone on Twitter is embracing this new Stellar Blade, apparently we're all just experts in Korean culture, right? And we all should know how the game should be portrayed since, that's just how things go. Whenever a new game comes out, we all become experts in the culture from which the game is released. So,
absolutely. Everybody's got their PhD in gaming.
Talk some of these topics.
That's right. Well, listen, Kofi, get ready. You're going to be put on the hot seat. I just want to say shout out to Steady Flow. Because Mooch, you're welcome. I want more people to see your show. Always a great show. Steady, thank you so much, man. That means the world to me. Kofi, so we'll put you on the hot seat here. And like I said, we've got a lot to talk about tonight when it comes to Stellar Blade, guys, and the whole thing that's going on right now with the Fallout 4 update. We're going to get into all of that as the show progresses. But this is late-breaking news, and I thought we would just talk about it first as we let some of the other panel members, join us as we creep closer to the 8 o'clock hour in New York. But Kofi, so Microsoft's Q3 FY24 report shows Xbox content and services up 62%, but Xbox hardware down 31%.
Oh.
So, and the other part of it, I know, I hear you, Craig. And the other part of this, though, is that it's down 31%. And I don't remember if it was actually the last quarterly report or it was a year ago, April, that they were down 30 then. I believe it was down 30 then and now down 31%. We've seen this trend of the hardware sales going down, but we do see their content and services revenue is going up. This really does, Kofi, kind of fall in line with what we've said. And I've got a couple of quotes here. I'll read them later. I want to hear your take. Listen, I said this about, what was it, February? I think it was February when Xbox had their podcast, okay? And when they had their business podcast, I said to people all the time, I said, Xbox isn't going anywhere. Xbox is probably going to be the largest, if they're not already, largest publisher out there. Xbox will be around for a very, very long time, thank God. But you can see that they're seemingly stepping maybe away from hardware. Now, we have heard Phil and Sarah and a few others say that they do have more hardware on the way, Kofi, but we all know how Microsoft, not Xbox, but how Microsoft, the parent company, kind of reacts to these numbers. Now that they're seeing the hardware continue to drop, Kofi, two things. What do you hear? What is it you're thinking when you see services, content, revenue going up, but hardware continuously down year after year, Kofi?
I feel they are ecstatic about the growth. I think all of us find that pretty obvious. And I think they're okay with the declining of the physical units. To be honest, I think they hate the nightmare of games getting released and maybe getting bottlenecked by their weaker system. I'm thinking of something like Baldur's Gate 3. And I'm sure as we go through the next couple of years, there's going to be more games that have a better performance on X. And I honestly think long-term, having a cloud infrastructure where there's no physical hardware sooner than later makes Xbox smile. Because how much dollars are they making on each unit sold? I know it's not impressive. So if they can continue to trend towards that, they could set a number or a date. They could say, hey, 2027, there will be a physical console, but it'll just get the basics done. Everything else will be on the cloud, and we gain whatever was lost in each unit sold, or however many units we were selling now. It'll be much less in 2027, and we can consider that more towards our profit or whatever gross revenue. So I hate it as a fan, as a gamer, because I already know that the next Xbox probably won't have a disc drive. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I still import. I'm waiting for Stellar Blade to arrive. So that's very much my lane, and I appreciate them probably going the route of a cloud infrastructure for performance, minus the lag, which that's a whole other situation. But I don't think we're going to see this Series S or having two different SKUs where one is limiting anymore. I think that is going to die this generation, and 10th gen or whatever's next lets that go. So I guess there's a little bit of a silver lining, but mostly me being a physical based gamer, I'm salty.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you for saying that one bit, Craig. I know you kind of chimed in as I was just reading some of the quotes there and going through my thoughts on it. Craig, where are you on this? I mean, you had a lot to say when that Xbox Business podcast went off. I mean, these numbers, as much as people want to kind of make more of it than they are, I think a lot of us kind of saw that this is what they were inspiring to, right? And we also saw with the 4 games. They put the 4 games on. Some people are saying 5 as Dusk Falls, or some people are counting that. However you want to look at it. Shout out to the great Mash, by the way, gifted 10 Mooch memberships. Mash, I'm humbled. I can't say thank you enough. The great Mash, everybody. Just say, I'm saying thank you. And Mash, I'm going to say thank you at least another 15 times throughout the show. But Craig, I mean, is this going to be one of those clear... Actually, you know what, Craig? Before I even ask you the question, let me do this. From the great Zuby Tech. Shout out to Zuby Tech, by the way. Zuby Tech's reporting this. Chairman and CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, says, we committed to meeting players where they are bringing great games to more people on more devices. He says, we are expanding our games to the new platforms, bringing 4 of our fan-favorite titles to Nintendo Switch and Sony platforms for the first time. In fact, earlier this month, we had 7 games among the top 25 PlayStation Store, more than any other publisher. So a lot of people on the Xbox camp are kind of saying, well, there you go. That's positive news. And it is. However, it kind of makes me believe that Satya says we now want to put more games on Switch and PlayStation. What do you think, Craig?
I agree with what Kofi said. People got to remember that this is what they have been seeking to do for years. They are. It's like they got to where they are because of the decisions that they've made. And they can see things coming, 5 to 7 years down the road, and they saw this coming. They can't out console Sony. I think Phil Spencer said that, or Nintendo. They're DOA in the European theater, if you want to call it that. They're done. Sony has ran them out of there. So that's why Jim Ryan, one of the reasons Jim Ryan was hired, he knew that theater, and he got them out of there. But I mean, this is just not a surprise anymore. It's unfortunate. I think Amy the Hood said something like, well, they expected the hardware to keep declining. So it's like if this is a medical patient, we would say it's terminally restless. So you got some you have some hard liners out there that are going to just go the way of the dodo bird, and they're getting out of the physical space, and which is fine.
It makes sense, right? It makes sense, right? Like,
makes sense.
I mean, if you've been struggling for years and years and years now at this point, and not only that, like, typically hardware is offset by software sales, right? They usually take a loss up front on the hardware to make up their money on the software. Well, if your software sales are lagging, not only that, you're giving them further value via Game Pass, so you're losing even more sales. Like, that's a hard gap to close now. So I could see them wanting to get out of that, instead of starting at a deficit, and become more of a publisher. And I think they are, and when you add in all the back end stuff they have going on, all the server blades and the tech that they have running underneath a lot of these different games, like they're not going nowhere. They're entrenched in the back end of gaming, like more than people realize, I think.
Well, Gambit.
I'll just simply add one more quick thing.
No, go ahead, Craig.
What Phil Spencer this the kind of person he is that he went to a congressional investigative body under oath and said that, Sony has 10 years to make a Call of Duty competitor. And then 6 months later, he's screaming about the Call of Duty competitor, Helldivers 2, that now he wants that on
That's a really good point.
Xbox.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just and that's nothing against him. That's just he is going to do and say what he needs to do and say. Ultimately, you're right, Mooch, when they did that little business update, nobody up there on that stage had any power. Because the boss of bosses is Satya Nadella. If he wants, and he's bringing the whole slate, they cannot show that man these numbers and then not expect more not to come over. It's just it's gonna happen. It's they just as a famous man says, you got it all ready for me. They've teed it up. Now it's all gonna come over. So just everybody get ready for it. And shout out to them for the Fallout update today. That was a great update.
That is, and we're going to get to that update because there was a little bit of, I wouldn't use the word controversy, but there was a little bit of confusion in the middle of the day, and I think that Bethesda came out and corrected it, and I say bravo to Bethesda for what they did. I don't usually quote a lot of Kotaku, but Kotaku just came out and says Xbox consoles are tanking. Gambit, they say here, the tech giant announced in its third quarter earnings that the Xbox Series X and S revenue is down 30% year over year. It blamed the nosedive on a, in quotes, lower volume of consoles sold, end quotes, during the start of 2024. If that sounds like a repeat of last year, it's because it is. In quotes, Xbox hardware revenue decreased 30% on a strong prior year comparable, driven by lower volume of consoles sold, end quote. Microsoft reported back in April of 2023. That's what I was saying when I was saying it seems to be a year over year, 2 years in a row now, when we're looking at a minus in hardware sales. Again, I don't say this or report this or discuss this in any kind of shock value. I know that there's no reported numbers, Gamut, coming out of Microsoft as far as Xbox console sales for quite some time now. I know that there's other companies out there, third-party companies that do estimates, and it seems they're fairly close. I wouldn't say that they're spot on, but I would say that they're fairly close. So, I mean, Gamut, when it comes down to it, this is not always a silver lining. How does this, in terms, affect PlayStation, maybe even Switch? I know a lot of Nintendo fans out there in the chat are going, it doesn't affect Switch, and it probably doesn't, because I really do think Xbox and PlayStation were predominantly the competitors in this conversation. But does this affect PlayStation at all if Xbox does, in fact, go third party? And the reason I say that, Gamut, is you're looking at a situation where, or Kofi, you can chime in as well, where you have a spot where Activision's been purchased, Bethesda's been purchased. You see right now that Embracer's not doing well at all. Microsoft could easily scoop more games up. Is this something where that's a concern for Sony moving forward, or not really? Because if they're leaving the hardware space, they're not going to be looked at any differently than EA.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they've completely. I mean, I think they're going to have a hand in the hardware space to some degree, but I think it's going to be. They're probably going to push it to be quite open. Like they just don't have the hardcore fan base anymore to drive the sales that they need to, with the cost so high. So I think they are going to push a lot of things to the other platforms. So I don't know. As far as PlayStation, I think PlayStation should just keep doing what it's doing. I think just keep focusing on quality games. They may have to cut back on the how many high budget games they put out. But in my opinion, there's too many games out right now anyway. And I think that's where some of the sales softness comes from. Like, So, what percentage of us are playing Rebirth? How many of us are on Hellblade, not Hellblade, but Helldivers? How many of us are on Stellar Blade? Like I can't play. Like there's Dragon's Dogma 2. That's a 100-hour game. Like this is all just dropped in the past couple of months, and I can only play so much of it myself. So I just think it's super saturated right now, and I think our ability to buy everything and play everything we can't keep up anymore. So I think PlayStation should just keep doing what they're doing, and I think they'll be fine. But I think we will see things slow down a bit here in the future.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Gambit, but I'll just play devil's advocate for the show. Kofi, the reason I'm going to you on this is, you really have your ear to the ground with a lot of the Japanese developers and what's going on over here on the Western Front too. Kofi, the only thing I will say to Gambit's point, I don't think Gambit was incorrect, but to be honest with you, we would like to see more games coming from Sony's first party, Microsoft's first party. There's a lot of people online. I don't care if you're an Xbox fan or a PlayStation fan. A lot of people have been complaining, Kofi, this generation that the lack of games. There's not a lack of games. Gambit just proved it. But there seems to be a lack of games coming from Sony's first party predominantly. Is that something?
Yeah, I think that's what you're going to. I think that's a result of the rising of costs, and I think that's just they went through COVID, so I think they were a little bit more cautious, and I think just I think that's why we're going to see what we're seeing right now. But I'd like to hear what Kofi says though.
No, I mean it's a tough pill to swallow because I think of the PS4 generation really highly because a lot of devs not only released maybe a unique IP, but they kind of for lack of a better term, leveled up. Like I think of Sucker Punch, and they always had me with Infamous, but I think Tsushima really became a lot of people's game of the year that year. And so they kind of stepped into a whole new stratosphere. And then Housemarque, I think with Returnal, like a AAA roguelike, really had not been on the scene. And so we see like a lot of teams kind of stepping up, but to see Naughty Dog not around, I think that's really the most sore point.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the absence of Japan studios is why I'm personally salty. I want to see like Hat come back in a Gravity Rush, or something like this. Or we just heard about Little Big Planet maybe disappearing forever. So that there's definitely like some gaps that we're seeing, but I guess because my perspective is always what's exclusive or what's available plus first party. What I'm consuming over these last 4 or 5 months has been insane for me. Like whether it's Grand Blue Fantasy Relink or like he was just saying, Rebirth. Like I'm still going through a playthrough of Rebirth right now, and then I have Stellar Blade in the mail, and then I just got something like Unicorn Overlord. So there's so much. That's just either, I hate to say it, like not on other platforms or just on PlayStation that I'm very happy. Now, the fact that Naughty Dog kind of, as we know, kind of waffled between, hey, we're releasing this really great game and telling us that for 3 years and then not releasing the game, that does have me salty. And to add a little more salt to that wound, Naughty Dog did a really good job back in the PS3 gen introducing 2 brand new IPs, and that's the last time that they've introduced anything new.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, I'm pissed at Naughty Dog for not delivering, and then going through all of PS4 and doing, yes, an amazing sequel on Uncharted and, Last of Us is amazing, part 2. The fact that they could just come all the way to PS5, now we're, 3+ years into PS5 and we still don't know anything new.
Yeah.
Fans can be salty about that. That's a proper criticism. So anybody who's saying like, oh, we want to see, what's Sucker Punch doing? We haven't really seen Sucker Punch's new anything, and it's 4 years out since Tsushima. Of course, what's it called? Guerrilla's on, running full steam, so I don't really have much to say about them. But it just feels kind of empty.
So you know what? So Kofi,
specifically with some first party titles.
Kofi, you literally just put a volleyball up in the air, but I'm going to let Slow-Mo and Persona who just joined us. Shout out to the great Slow-Mo Backslap and the great Gaming with Persona who just joined the show. Very excited to have these guys with us. Guys, welcome, both of you.
What's up?
Great to have you both here. So Slow-Mo, I'll start with you on this one. We were talking, this actual topic originated from the late-breaking Microsoft's Quarterly 3 reports that just came out maybe a few hours ago. And, they're saying content and services up 62%, but again, hardware down 31%, down again after last year's 30%. So, Slow-Mo, the question I'd asked the panel was more along the lines of, listen, this is not a bash an Xbox session. It's not. It's literally going to say, well, now that Sony has this situation, is this a situation where, like, if Microsoft does in fact go third party and they are going to leave hardware eventually, not now, of course, eventually, how does this affect us, the gamers, with Sony and Nintendo? And the question I'll ask you, Slow-Mo, and then I'm going to go right to Persona as well after this, is the situation where if these teams now are taking their foot off the throttle, right? Because really, where's the competition coming? I don't really think anybody at Sony's like, hey guys, hurry up, Avowed's coming. I just don't see that being brought up at the boardroom. So I think
if they're talking about Avowed, they're wondering, so when's Avowed showing up over here?
When's Avowed getting ported over?
Because it's just like, I said this back in January when the rumors started. I said just one game going is no different than all of them going. It doesn't matter if it's the true or not. It doesn't matter if that's not their messaging. You can't control your messaging when you are the only console platform that are putting all of your first party games.
Yep. 100%.
Or any of your first party games on your competing platform. We just recently this week heard that Nintendo won't even allow Samus to be on Fortnite. Why? Because they don't want any of their intellectual properties being played by gamers on anything that's not a Nintendo. That's how protective of their brand that they are. If you want to play with Samus, you better get yourself a Nintendo.
That's right.
Or maybe you'll be playing on PC and we'll come see you in court. But either way, you better be playing on a Nintendo.
Yep.
You don't see Sony putting the, even though there's the whole, Helldivers 2 might come in. Yeah, okay. when Helldivers 2 actually shows up on the Xbox, I'll believe that. Until then, no, I don't believe it. They don't do that. And it's even in their marketing for the Samsung TVs, they said you don't need to have an Xbox.
Right.
And it's just like when you keep telling this to the player, when Phil Spencer does interviews and he's insinuating these things, when you hear your CEO, Satya Nadella, talking about being happy that these games are over there and completely ignoring that the hardware is in a death spiral, what does that tell even the casual gamer? Now, even the hardcore community, even the casual gamer, it says, I don't need an Xbox.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not even to play your first party content that I'm interested in. I still don't need an Xbox. Whether it's day and date or outside of Game Pass or it's eventually going to show up on my platform, whether it's true or not about the specific game that you showed, I have this inclination that is the truth. Mm-hmm. And that will drive sales, whether it's true or not, whether you meant to or not. Mm-hmm. You can't help it. And them coming out and saying we expect hardware to be down next quarter too, is them coming, is the transition from Amy Hood going, hardware is down? What happened? To acceptance. It's just going to stay down.
Yeah, no,
because they're not backing off of what they're doing. They're going to be more games. They're going to announce they're going to go over to other platforms. It is what it is.
I completely.
They see some success with.
I completely agree with you.
Some of the games that went.
You're saying how can things change, Slow-Mo? How can things change when they literally have not? They're not changing or pivoting course at all. They are moving this way now. The thing I guess I would say in regards to what you're saying is, why are they waiting so long?
Your question.
That's all right.
To answer your question. For us gamers, it's not good overall for us when there's less competition for Nintendo and Sony, and especially when Nintendo and Sony seem to be in slightly different lanes. They're both in the same market, right? Mm-hmm. But Nintendo doesn't attempt to do high fidelity content, and Sony doesn't do the kind of content that Nintendo does.
Right.
What Microsoft provided was a direct competition to what Sony does, And I'm not saying what they will do, but typically when you have someone who's directly competing against you, no matter how badly they are, there is a little bit of a hesitancy in choosing to go in certain areas, maybe like raising the prices of games, maybe like in
100%.
not necessarily caring.
We know what
quality.
Greedy Sony looks like. Remember PS3 Sony? None of us want to see that again.
Right. And that's, even though there are different people there today, the mentality, this isn't a specifically a Sony thing. This is a business thing. This when you don't have as much competition as you had before, you don't do the things that you did to make sure that you keep those players and keep those players happy. It's like in relationships. If you're a little too comfortable, you may be kind of wondering where, when you come home from work, where everything went.
Yeah.
They also push them on the tech side too. You know what I mean? They make technical revolutions, and then Sony has to come up with something to match, or Sony comes up with the DualSense, and now Xbox has it. So they push each other further down the line. And I'm totally on the same page with Slow-Mo here.
I got news for you. Maybe it's because I watch What's Up PlayStation every single Saturday, but I can tell you right now, Persona is just waiting to get on the microphone. Persona, I can tell. I got to go to you next year.
A word about
no!
I've been waiting to hear
Believe me, I know. Persona,
what are you still working out right now?
He might be. Persona, you got me. Persona's got me motivated.
Right.
I see him at 6 a.m. I see you out there, 6 a.m. Man, you get me. I got to get up earlier. Shout out to the great Persona. Persona, listen. What do you think? I mean, the initial question was, does this take the foot off of the throttle for Sony? Like I said, I was using it as an example, just kind of joking around, but I said, the Sony studios aren't sitting there going, Herman Helse isn't like, hurry up, guys. We've got to worry about Avowed. I don't, before it was, what do we have coming this holiday season that's really going to be coming from both platforms that are really some big bangers, some real big AAA games. And, I know we have heard of Avowed, but other than that, not a whole lot more from either camp. Just wondering, Persona, what do you think that these effects are when you hear services are up 62% for Microsoft, but hardware down again year after year, 31%?
All right, so Mooch, first of all, listen, your boy is here. We about to bring some energy.
Let's go,
because Mooch, me and you, we're New Yorkers.
Let's go.
So we're New Yorkers.
Yes.
We high energy, high octane.
Yes, please.
You understand? We gonna speak from the heart. Shout out to my boy
Let's
Bart.
go.
You understand? Shout out to everybody. First of all, before I even say anything, I see 67 likes and over 300 people in this chat.
Please.
Listen.
Yes.
Hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Do it for your boy. Can you hit the like button for your boy? This is my boy. This is my boy Mooch, man. It's the Persona seal of approval.
Hit that like button, please.
All right. So listen, Mooch. First off, thanks for inviting me, man. Sorry I was late, man. Don't beat me up. Okay.
It's all good.
You understand? My fault.
Listen,
I was a little late.
New York Minute. You're good.
Exactly. All right. So in terms of this whole Xbox stuff, man, I mean, I hate to say it, but I told you so. I don't know what else to say with this, right? I think but all jokes aside, it's kind of the conversation that we've have been having since the leak of these initial games going to the competing platforms, right? Clearly, and this is things that that Phil Spencer has said himself. He said it most recently on the interview that he had on Kind of Funny a couple months back, where he was saying he's not in the business of trying to out-console Nintendo or PlayStation. There's no, he said things along the lines of there's nowhere where people want to leave their libraries, all these other things that he's saying, right? I think that stuff was foreshadowing of really what's going on the back end at Microsoft and kind of what their thought process is, right? Now, I don't think a world where, I'm not of the ilk where I want to see Microsoft go away, right? You know how some people get a little too extreme and say, Xbox, Microsoft, everybody needs to go away, whatever. I don't want that, right? But we have to look at things holistically when it comes to not the industry, the console market, right? In the console market, Microsoft is they're the redheaded stepchild, right? They're the child called It. I don't know if you guys read that book when you was a kid. I did. They're the ones that's really lagging and not able to meet expectations on the console side of things when it comes to their console, right? And something that I said a couple months back was Microsoft, if Microsoft is really testing, quote unquote, testing putting games on other platforms to see what first of all, what is the test? Why test it? And if it's successful, what does that mean? Right? And one of the things that I said is with Microsoft having two of the biggest publishers within the industry, Activision and ZeniMax, they puts them in a position to where they can lock down the console market, not necessarily through console sales, but make sure that they maximize profits within this sector by putting games on other platforms. And as we can see with the facts, data, and statistics, their consoles are not meeting those expectations, but services, games, and all that other stuff, because now they have these big publishers under their belt, are, and in some cases, exceeding expectations. So I think for Microsoft, they may pivot. Now, does that mean that I want to see their console go away? Absolutely not. Nope. But I think when you compare apples to apples, they might be looking at it as, we'll probably still put something out there, but expect to see more of our titles on other platforms because that's where the games will sell.
But let me say, okay, so Persona, everything you just said sounds like gospel to me, but here's my question. Why are they dragging this out? Why even mention more hardware? Is it just because Microsoft is Microsoft, they can afford to do that? And if it's a lost leader, it's a lost leader. Who They don't care. They want to just kind of appease all spaces. I mean, why mention more hardware? And I question this to Persona here first, but guys, chime in. It's CrossFire. You don't have to be called on. Persona, why? It just seems like it's this forever longing. We see the light at the end of the tunnel. They know the light at the end of the tunnel, but no one's saying it, as far as corporate.
So this is, I'll use this example, right? You ever was in a relationship with a girl and everything was good in the beginning. You would call all the time, baby, I love you. I love you too, baby. It was good. She, when it was time to get down, it was good. Like everything was just good. Then after a while, she stopped calling you as much. She don't send you the heart emoji, text messages. You at work and she ain't sends you the butt naked pics to say, can't wait till you get home, daddy. Like, she ain't doing none of that. And you're like,
I need therapy, man.
What's going on? Right. And that, I think that in the whole time in her mind, she's kind of already checked out of the relationship. She just hasn't said it, but the signs are there.
Okay.
To bring that back to this,
yeah,
I think this is kind of in that same situation of the signs are there. They just aren't saying anything.
They're not saying anything. You do see less. You don't see the Aaron Greenbergs and the Phil tweets. Those I'm not saying there's none of them. They're out there, but it's not as plentiful as it was maybe the first half of this generation, end of last generation. So Persona, I do see what you're saying there. I mean, that does.
And besides, you don't rip a Band-Aid off of a wound that's still healing, right? So I think the writing is on the wall. And again, I'm not saying that they outright are just going to leave the console space, but that's definitely there. I think they're definitely looking at the console space and looking at how they can maximize their profits. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't still put a console out, but that might also mean that you'll start to see even more things come out on other platforms because they want to maximize profits. Like, as much as people say, oh yeah, Microsoft is $1 trillion company. How the hell do you think they got there? They got there by making money and smart investments. If they're going to continue to grow and get there, they're going to have to maximize profits in all areas of where they're at. And console market, what's the alternative? Because the console itself isn't it.
Persona, I gotta say, shout out to the great, because what I'm about to say right now really piggybacks with what you're saying. Shout out to the great Southbound and Down. You guys remember Southbound 110 from the early days of CrossFire. Shout out to Southbound. Great to see him here in the chat. He says Microsoft's just keeping their toe in the water and is afraid to keep swimming. He says you can see the lack of enthusiasm when it comes to the Xbox staff. And South, I'm not going to put any words in your mouth, but it seems like you're meaning online, like we're saying. And that's what you're saying, Persona. The signs are there. It's just that they're not coming out and saying it. And I think that a lot of gamers are reading into that. And I don't know. The thing that really does bug me is what you said when you first started off. You said, do I want Xbox to go away? No, the answer is no. Without the competition, it does really take that emphasis off of Sony. And I'm saying Nintendo too, but really Nintendo, Slow-Mo gave a great example. You have to go buy a Switch if you want to see, anything related to Mario, Zelda, Metroid. You've got to buy their product, which, by the way, cheers and kudos to Nintendo, man. Still, if it's not broke, you don't fix it. If it's not broke, you don't fix it. They're doing well. The minute Switch 2 comes out, they're going to be the console industry lead again. We all kind of know that, unless they take a drastic step backwards, kind of like with the Wii U. But I don't see Nintendo doing that again. They've already got a hit with the Switch. They're just going to add on from there. So
they got new leadership now. That new leadership's not. They're not. Their current CEO has got his foot on the pedal and his finger on the pulse of his community. He understands, like, you can't have another Wii U. So
no,
I don't think Switch 2 is going to be a step back for them. If anything, if you look at how they are handling emulators now, I think they want even more than what they got with the Switch. When it comes to they don't want any stragglers, any people. Hey, look, don't worry about this performance, which also kind of tells me like the Switch 2 won't be as powerful as people wish it would be. But they're not really even trying to deal with people emulating games that are just releasing, which understandable, right? But they don't want people emulating games that are playing those games on PC that are just releasing and playing them at a higher fidelity. And Nintendo gets potentially, if the person chooses not to even buy the software before doing that, they don't want to lose out on that. So they're definitely far more, I think aggressive than what we saw in the past 5 years from them. But yeah, this is I think Xbox is still going to do hardware for the time being.
Yeah,
it's just going to look different than what we have seen before, and it might even look a little different than what they was even anticipating when they talked about hardware at the podcast thing they did a month and a half ago. Because and this is just my assumption, I don't know for certain, but I assume that the rumored handheld, well, I know it's more than a rumor, I know it's true, right? But the handheld and maybe a more traditional console was what they planned on dropping soon in a couple years or so. Yeah, but it might just be, if with the trend this is going, and then you get to next year, and like some of those numbers that they can just basically just zero in on it. But hey, look, the content services is 60% growth. Next year, we those of us in business understand this. You got ABK helping you boost that number, and it's being compared to what Xbox did last year. In 2025, your 2025 numbers are going to be compared to what Xbox is doing right now. Right. What Microsoft Gaming is doing right now. Right now. And if Matt Booty isn't getting software out the gate. Huh?
Why you put the last name like that, man?
Hey, look, man, I've been calling.
He got to the last name, he was like Matt Booty. Like, why you slow down?
Look, man, I've been calling him Matt Loose Booty for the past few weeks, but we ain't gonna go there. I'm just saying, like, he's Matt Booty. If he is not delivering, if his people aren't delivering in the next year, it's going to look pretty bad this time next year when we're seeing single-digit everything and double-digit negatives across the board, because they already got ABK in the tuck. That's not going to help your numbers out.
But with ABK, Call of Duty, Treyarch's Call of Duty is coming out this year, which is definitely going to carry them quite a bit. And then they do got some stuff lined up, because you got Hellblade 2 coming out next month, and what else you got?
Yeah, but
Indiana Jones,
Indiana Jones, slated for later.
Indiana Jones, about stuff like that. So they got some pretty interesting titles that's coming out this year that should definitely.
Yeah, they got content coming.
Yeah, they got content.
The level of quality of the content, and that it actually delivers, and that it actually comes out. Like, it's a lot of the issues that I frankly feel like Matt Booty is the king of failing upward. Like,
oh my god! Like, I'm so glad you said that. I mean, I'm so, with what happened over at the initiative, and like everywhere he goes is like a bunch of nothing.
Yeah, and so like if those games don't come out when they're supposed to come out, if they don't hit well, Yo, like that's going to be problematic, and I gotta wonder at one point, do you start looking at like the guy that's the captain on the ship and be like, do we need a new conductor? Do we need a new coach?
Right.
To get more out of this talent, because like there's good talent there. Obsidian's very good.
Absolutely.
Playground, very good. The In Exile makes really good RPGs. You have talent, but it's just like if you're not getting the best out of said talent,
do you think they just lack? Do you think they just lack that? You know how Sony is legendary for coming in and bringing down the axe on a project that doesn't, you know what I mean? Early, they'll do it early too. They'll say, "Nope, cut it off. You're done." They'll switch developers or move on.
But that's also like that's actually paying attention to the game. Like the whole look at Halo Infinite and 343. I feel like I'm almost saying something I shouldn't. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I feel like is deeper than pause when I say this. I think it's deeper than Matt Booty because
I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
It's deeper than Matt Booty because when you look at like some of the other stuff that's come out when it comes to like partnerships and things like that, they passed on the Spider-Man partnership or the Marvel partnership and all that stuff. I don't think it's really just not saying that Matt Booty doesn't take a good portion of the blame. I guess if gamers are looking at somebody to blame when it comes to how Microsoft as a gaming company has been failing up until recently when it comes to these acquisitions, but I think when you're looking at before that, they were passing up on stuff a lot or not putting putting the checkbook forward enough to put a lot to lock down certain things. And even with the leaked emails and stuff like that, they were looking at giving up on Xbox.
Yeah, they lost faith in themselves for many years there.
But that's the thing though. I think this might be a little bit controversial. But just stick with me here when I say this. I really do think solely Phil Spencer, is what is really trying to keep the division alive. In a sense of when they were trying, because I think Microsoft, Satya, I think they want to shut this shit down. Like I think they're done and just want to be straight third party. I think it's Phil Spencer that's really pushing like, yo, look.
I do too.
Now we can do this. We got this. We can do this. Let's buy this. Let's buy that, and let's pivot to this and that.
Yeah.
I think it's Phil, man.
I think
specifically Phil.
People say Phil saved Xbox. I think Phil is he's the pillar holding Xbox up. I really do.
It always has been.
Yeah.
But he's the one that got them to reinvest in the first place.
But
you can't be half stepping though. That's the problem. You can't be like lukewarm, half in and half out. You either gotta go all in one direction or all in the other. Because then this one comes with the mixed messaging and do I even really need an Xbox? And
this is the second side of it though, Slow-Mo, right? Because I agree with you, and that's why on the other side of it, it's like as much as I think Phil is definitely one of the people that's very loud about let's keep the division around. The decisions he's made in a lot of things have not panned out to really bolster that argument. A lot of things he said even in interviews about can't compete with this and that and just the mixed messaging, and now you got games going to other platforms, competing platforms, but it's only a test and like as much as I think he really wants to keep the brand going, I also think ultimately a lot of the decisions that he's made might be its downfall.
Yeah. And that's and when you go to these meetings and you got Amy Hood and Satya Nadella and their other CTO, I forgot his name, on the other side, and on your side, you got no bullets in the chamber. You're trying to say, hey, look, these are things that we're doing that if we continue to keep doing it a more traditional way, we will see progress and we will see growth in the brand, and all those things are failing and they're not working and your hardware is down 31% and you don't have, even when you took $150 off both SKUs for your hardware, you still only had like, what was it, single digit? Was it 3%? Was it positive 3% or negative 3%? I can't remember. It was somewhere close to zero though, right? And even with massive cuts, you still couldn't get a large number of people to come out and buy the hardware. You just don't have any guns, any bullets in the chamber to be able to help your side of the argument. When they're like, look at 6-year-old Sea of Thieves and what it's doing on PlayStation. Look at Little Old Grounded that was developed by 12 developers from Obsidian on PlayStation. Why are we waiting for Xbox that no one's buying? We're going to put our stuff there first and then put them on PlayStation. Why wait to get that revenue?
I think so. First of all, Slomo, you make a lot of great points right there, but you don't hear me defending Phil a lot. But what Persona said in his 2 parts about the Phil Spencer era, I almost think some of the way that he had to kind of backtrack and things like that. I don't necessarily think a lot of people are just pointing to Phil and saying, "Oh, that's his fault." He's the one that has to come out and say it. But Persona, I bet you when you see those original quotes from him and then you see the articles afterwards where the quote is changed years later, I think that's Satya saying, we're not doing what we originally said with you anymore. We're going to do this. He's got to go out there and speak for the brand. So a lot of it's not him changing his mind. I think it was, this is a path forward. And I'll just use an example real quick for the audience. Mixer, right? I mean, they didn't not try early on. You know, they went out and I think they had Ninja. I think they were in the midst of getting Shroud. Was it Shroud they ended up getting also? Those were 2 of the biggest at the time over on Twitch. And then we all just woke up one day, very shortly thereafter, they're like, Mixer's closing down. So you had Phil coming out saying, we are going to have one of the best streaming services of all time, and it'll be affiliated with the Xbox, and it'll be baked into the UI. And then one day it was just poof. I don't think Phil woke up one day and was like, pull the plug. I think he was told that, you know.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, right? I agree with you, right? That there's definitely, the powers that be at Microsoft that are above Phil are definitely probably the ones that are making a lot of those decisions and kind of demanding that from him. The issue is, and I think anybody that's a manager, director, or C-level executive or has met people like that, you'll know when you're the leader and the face, when it's time to fall on the sword, it's not going to be the lowly assembly line worker.
Correct.
It's going to be the leader.
Correct.
So
100%.
Although I agree that it might not all be Phil. Phil is the face, so Phil is going to take a blunt of the criticisms and the anguish. The anger from gamers and the disdain that some people might feel, or the blame for any type of failures that might happen. Right? Even with Sarah Bond and Matt Booty, yes, you blame them as well if you want. But ultimately, the blame is going to climb up the ladder to
always
Phil
on
Spencer
the. It's always on the captain. Yeah, it's always
Yeah.
on the captain, right? Persona, I agree. The captain of the ship takes the hit no matter what the call is. Regardless, you have a lot
Titanic. On the Titanic,
That's right.
Captain stayed with that shit, man. He
That's
ain't
right.
leave. He ain't leave.
No,
that boy stayed on the ship.
He stayed on the ship.
I could not be the captain because I've been like the dude putting on the hoodie, getting out with the women and children. That was me, man.
I jumped overboard years ago.
I'm the captain. The first boat that go down, I'm on that. Y'all handle this.
Exactly. Someone has to guide the passengers in the boats. That's me. First mate, you got the helm. Hey, Mooch, I do have to run.
Slow-mo. Listen, Slow-mo.
Sorry. Next time I'll try to stay as a lot longer than today.
No, I appreciate it, Slow-mo. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you being here, guys. Go over and check out DPS podcast 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. Is it tonight on your channel or Forte's?
Starting off on Forte's channel and then ending on the DPS channel. So yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate you, Mooch.
You got it, Slow-mo.
Guys, take care, bro.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
sir.
Guys.
Shout out, by the way, to the great 4-star general. He says, what's up, Mooch? Great panel tonight. Everyone hit that like button. Please, guys, hit that like button. The great Jimmy Harrison, he says, what's up, brothers? Persona, he goes, going to resubscribe to Whoops right now. There you go. Persona, making moves, outstanding. Great Jimmy Harrison, everybody. Shout out to the great Southbound and Down. Again, he says to me, props to my man Moochie. He says, but I think the whole DEI shit has damaged a lot of the brand. I honestly, Persona, and I love Southie. Southbound is my boy. I don't think that he thinks that a lot of maybe the decisions that they've made with the way that they've had their games come out, and South, if I'm misspeaking, you can correct me in the chat, I will correct, but I don't think that's really a problem here. I think what it came down to is the matter of they just took their finger off the pulse. If anybody's been listening to this channel for years now, I've been saying this even before this generation started. I said they needed new leadership and they have to have their finger on the pulse. I know you guys remember me saying that. Persona, I've been saying for a long time, leadership at Xbox is almost non-existent in the sense that they're not looking at their games. Phil came out many a times before games came out and said, we thought this game was going to do really well. He said that with Redfall, when they had their quality folks assessing the game before it went out. We thought it was going to fare much, much better on meta. It didn't do that great. He said that about Crackdown 3. It's going to be the greatest thing in the world. It wasn't. I'm just trying to say, like, so I don't think that he's there on a day-to-day basis, which is not his job, right? That's Matt Booty's job, I believe. As Phil got promoted up, he was off of the day-to-day operations like that. But if Matt's not, and I'm not pointing the finger at Matt, 'cause I don't know, maybe Matt is going from studio to studio, but somebody is not looking at the quality of the games when they're coming out, because Persona, and I want to get Kofi and Gamut involved here, but you guys were talking about, you and Slow-Mo were going back and forth with, you've got Hellblade 2 coming out, Avowed, Indiana Jones. Now, Indiana Jones has the movie, the Hollywood recognition, okay? That's out there. By the way, I want to say shout out again to the great Mash, who just donated another 10 memberships. Mash, I cannot say thank you enough, and I see the chat just being like, thank you, Mash. Mash, you're the best. So Mash, thanks for really, really appreciate that. But I mean, Persona is a game like Hellblade 2, is a game like Avowed. We'll wait to discuss Indiana Jones for a second, because there's a lot of variables with that individual IP right there. So we'll wait a second. But I don't see people going, I waited 4 years. There's Hellblade 2. That's the game. And it doesn't matter. I'm just bringing this up. But an 8 to 12 hour game, even if it's 15 hours. That's not a game that really has like household name recognition. That doesn't make people want to either subscribe $16.99 a month to Game Pass or go spend $500 for a gaming console or $300 for a gaming console, and then $16.99 a month. I don't know if that necessarily has that gravitational pull. Their pull was always in, and we're going to talk about this in a bit, Gears, Halo, which I know Halo did well Metacritic wise. I think it's sitting at an 87. But the game just came out, and it just, like, Halo should never just go flat, So I'm wondering, like, Halo should be like in everyone's conversation, and it should be on everyone's multiplayer list for every Friday night, and the numbers aren't there.
Yeah, I don't want to dominate the conversation either, Mooch. I know Gammon.
No, Gammon,
and
Kofi, jump
shout
in, please.
Shout out to my boy Kofi, and but I will say that I do think that, I love Hellblade 1. I platinumed that game on PlayStation back in 2017. I think, Hellblade 2 looks really interesting. Combat doesn't really look too much improved from the first game, which is a bit of a bummer, but I do like the premise of what Ninja Theory was trying to go for when it comes to the Hellblade Hellblade series. So for me, Hellblade 2 is definitely getting picked up on Steam, and I'm playing that in May for sure. But I do agree with you that I don't think Hellblade 2 necessarily is a system seller, or a game that's like a can't miss, like a. I
gotta play that. I gotta play that.
That's what they've really lacked, right? This entire time, they've lacked that wow factor, that big. Oh my god, I have to play that game. I'm buying that console. I don't care what console it's on. Like, that's what they've really been missing this entire time, And it's just, I mean, as much as it would have hurt, they should have held Halo for another year, Even though, I mean, it already looked bad. The situation was already looking bad. So that, in my opinion, they should have just held it. But they're lacking that big punch, and I don't know what it is that's stopping it from happening. And if I think about their future pipeline, like Persona was saying, like Indiana Jones, like I love Emperor, The Lost Tomb. Like, I'm a big fan of the original Xbox Indiana Jones games, so I'm looking forward to that. But there, like you said, there's an undercurrent to that too. So. Their attempts, like Starfield, they made an attempt at season, but I just think Bethesda's engine's is aging a little bit, and they rushed out Halo a little bit, and in my opinion, I jumped ship years ago. Halo, Gears, and Forza is awfully tired to me, and I'd love to see them lean on or create something big elsewhere. I personally, I'm voting for Fable to be that. I hope they knock Fable out the park, personally.
Yeah, Fable might be that one IP, Gamut. That's a really good point. Shout out real quick to Cloud9. Appreciate him, as well as we had, I want to just give a shout out real quick. Brother Numsy5, I think is, I'm just want to say is, these guys subscribe. Guys, please hit that subscribe button while you guys are here. Please hit that like button. Kofi, so I guess I'll change the subject slightly. I want to move on because we have a lot to talk about tonight. And I believe Hunter is going to be joining us later, too. And Hunter also, he completed Stellar Blade. So we're going to have a review with no spoilers. Everybody relax. Hunter is amazing at not giving out spoilers. It's one of his biggest pet peeves. So we're just going to talk about the game and some of the controversy things that have been going on in the news recently in a moment. But Kofi, I want to transfer this conversation over slightly to a lot of people are saying right now that, and I think it just comes from, I don't know what you want to say, false hype. I don't know what it is. But do you think Helldivers 2, there's a large push to say bring that over to Xbox. And a lot of other people are saying, well, don't worry, guys. PlayStation's going to follow what Xbox did. And I said this last week. I'll say it again this week, Kofi. If the blueprint is already, Sony sees the blueprint of what Microsoft did as they went from 2016 and putting games day and date on PC to where they were in Persona was saying advertisement for Samsung TVs saying you don't need an Xbox. If Sony already sees that route and how it led to the demise of Xbox hardware, and Sony seems to be very, very dependent, if you will, on hardware sales as well as software sales, why would, and it's a question, why, Kofi, would Sony ever consider putting Helldivers 2 on Xbox right now? And that's just a legitimate question. It seems to keep coming up in the media and it keeps coming up in the community. I'm just wondering, I'm sitting back and I'm trying to think of where's that positive. You say, well, there's the more the merrier, right? Yes. But is that more in essence going to take away from those people that want to play it that would go buy a PS5 and then buy the game?
I completely agree with the end of the statement you just made. I think if you release this title on Xbox, it could set a reputation that future PC and PlayStation simultaneous releases will eventually go to Xbox and eventually hurt sales. I don't see PlayStation really investing in that opportunity right now, just because the numbers have never suggested that. And I think even for a bag, I honestly think it would go right into Game Pass. And I don't think PlayStation is interested in PlayStation titles in Game Pass, because then we'll see, in my opinion, advertisements for PlayStation games in Game Pass. And what does that lead to? Right? Microsoft might try to kind of capitalize on that. Like, oh, look, we have MLB The Show and Helldivers, the two big games from this year. Why do you need, PlayStation right now? And I think they could try to lean into that if another title comes out and then it builds a reputation among the community for that to also be in Game Pass. That would just be me being, the villain of the scenario. Yeah. I am pro PlayStation, but I just think they could use their marketing dollars to say, like, look, why do you even need to be part of the PlayStation ecosystem? You could play Helldivers on your phone, right? Right.
Yeah, I don't think they feel the need to. Microsoft is doing what they do, including in Game Pass, because they had to. They were third place. They're doing what they have to do to try to scoop up market share. PlayStation. I mean, look what PlayStation has in front of them. They have Nintendo and they have Xbox, and they look at both examples and look what Nintendo has their stuff on complete lockdown, and look what that does to Nintendo. I just don't see them following Xbox at all. They may budge on how quickly they move things to Steam, depending on the numbers, and I think you will see those things maybe in future, like live service things. I think you'll see some of that stuff budge, but as far as their main big hitters, no, that stuff's not going anywhere, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the chat. By the way, shout out to Composite Smurf, and also shout out to MASH, and I see a lot of people saying this. Mary Wilcox also said it. MASH says, I loved Halo Infinite for like 2 weeks. Then it was over, basically, for me. Little interest to engage years later unless new campaign. And it's funny because there's two parts to that tale, MASH. There's the multiplayer, which I thought came out very polished and it was very good, but it was very slow. And when I said this about Gears a few weeks ago, a lot of people didn't agree with me, and that's fine. But when you look at games like Fortnite, and I know everyone's tired of saying this, but Apex Legends and then Warzone, and you see Helldivers, it's a fast-paced type of multiplayer game. And when you're going back to games like Halo and you go back to things like Gears, you don't have to change the way the game is, like the game itself, but speed it up a little bit. Like it just needs to move with the times. I'm not even talking for myself. I feel like younger generations, go to Twitch right now. Go over and check out Twitch and look at what's streaming. See what's popular right now. You'll see Helldivers. You'll see Apex. You'll see Warzone. You don't really see Halo. You don't see Gears multiplayer being played. So people are like, Mooch, I don't agree with you. That's fine, but where are the players then? I mean, that's the only thing I'm asking when it comes down to it. I really, really do think that that Halo, when I was saying the two parts of Halo, there's the multiplayer, and then there was the campaign. A lot of us, I have my hand in the air, I wanted to play more of the campaign. And I was told by many people, some in the industry, saying, hey, don't worry about it. That's why when you played Halo Infinite campaign, there was a lot of open areas, because that's where we're going to be building more and more in this unbelievably massive world we have. It's a big open sandbox. We're going to create more. Well, that time is come and gone. And where's the campaign? Where's the added, storytelling to what was going on with Master Chief, et cetera, et cetera. So you see people in the chat saying it. I love it. People are saying it. I love playing Halo Infinite, but then after a few weeks, a month, it was over. The honeymoon stage kind of ended there. So, I mean, Kofi, that was one of the things that, I think that Microsoft, they have to capitalize on Halo. They have to capitalize on Gears. And Gambit made a good point.
Yeah.
I don't know if Fable's still a household name. I'm going to say I don't know. I'm not going to speak on it. Fable's never been my jam. So I'm not going to comment. I'm really not.
Do you think that the team behind Fable can make enough of an impact to bring the IP back? Like I think of something like Baldur's Gate, right? Baldur's Gate was loved in an old generation. It had been forgotten for so long, but they did it. Their execution was so good. Everybody had to pay attention. Now, if Fable team can do that, Fable's back. I don't know if they can, but I think there's an opportunity.
Especially, I mean, they were a racing studio, right? So it's going to be it'll be interesting to see how this turns out.
Yeah. Then, Persona, what do you think when it comes down to it? I mean, what is it you need to sell right now? And then we're going to move on to another subject here. But I mean, at this point, you've got people saying, well, Helldivers 2 is going to come to, or they're lobbying for it to come to Xbox, or it's in initial talks, and then eventually PlayStation will follow suit, and they'll do day and date soon. And it's not. And listen, I'm not saying I care one way.
On what? Like, my fault. Finish your question.
No, I was going to say I don't really care either way. But to be honest with you, right now, if you look at Microsoft's blueprint and what they did from 2016 to now, it leads to a demise of hardware, and Sony's dependent on their hardware. So I just don't see why, if they see that blueprint and the road's already been drawn out, why would they go down the same? People are like, well, Sony's going to do the same thing Xbox is doing. You just wait and see. And I'm like, I mean, sure, they might, but I don't see how you could say, hey, if you go down this road, your car is going to get stuck. If you don't believe me, those guys just got stuck right over there, and you're going to get let's go down. We'll go around them. We'll be fine. I don't think so. So, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't see how Sony can actually even follow. Microsoft has the money to be able to have lost leaders out there. They can do another console after this one. And people would go, why would they do another console after this one? Because they can afford to. But Sony, Nintendo can't afford to have. Do you think Sony, or pardon me, I think it was Slow-Mo said it earlier. Do you think Nintendo could afford another Wii U catastrophe? I don't really think that's something that's in their cards.
I don't think that's something they're doing, but
no, I don't either.
I don't think that's something that they want, or can't say they can't survive it, but because the Switch has been insurmountably successful. So
absolutely,
I'm sure, and it's definitely rose Nintendo's stock in their value quite a bit. So but I don't think Nintendo's deliberately trying to put out something that would be a failure like the Wii U as well. So I think they're definitely paying to be extra careful with how they do this next console. But going back to your question about PlayStation and Helldivers on Xbox and all this weird stuff. So first off, with PlayStation, with Helldivers, the funny thing about Helldivers has definitely done a good job of exposing the hypocrisy in this community when it comes to how people move and things that people think or say, and FOMO, right? FOMO is a hell of a drug, right? Because 6 months ago, people were counting Helldivers 2 as just being another Sony failed multiplayer game that nobody was going to support or play, right? Now that Helldivers 2 is extremely successful, because and even a lot of Xbox zealots were saying that, like, oh yeah, Helldivers 2 looks boring, it doesn't look that good, it looks right. This, whatever. So, and then now that tune has changed with the success of it, and thinking, oh yeah, that needs to be on Xbox. And the only reason why a lot of people are even parroting that is because of what Phil Spencer said in that interview of, it doesn't, I don't know the quote word for word, but he said something along the lines of, it doesn't do anybody any good, Helldivers not being on Xbox. And I'm like, what? Like the logic of that doesn't make sense. It's a Sony owned IP. Sony owns the Helldivers IP. Like that, it's their game. The second thing with that is, all due respect, we already see that games don't sell on Xbox, or at least not as well as they would the competition.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that it would make more sense for PlayStation to figure out how to put Helldivers on a Nintendo than on Xbox, because you would stand to potentially make more money with a platform that buys games.
Yeah.
One of the things that's notorious right now with a lot of the Xbox and its community is that they don't buy games. They don't, they wait for things to come to Game Pass. And I'm sure the expectation, if Helldivers were to come, is, oh, it should be in Game Pass. And it's like, no, buy the game if you really want it. But I'm not going to say it never, but I don't see a world where PlayStation is doing that right now. I just don't see that. Now, in terms of day and date on PC, I do think that, especially with a lot of the things that PlayStation has been doing as of late, with PC, especially with the most recent thing with the overlay stuff, I can definitely see day and date, and not just with the games as the service games, because we already know that's something that's happening.
Yes.
But with single player games, I can see that being something that would happen sooner rather than later with all the moves that PlayStation has been doing as of late. So
wait a minute. So you do believe that PlayStation's first party games, single player games, are going to go day and date to PC?
No, I'm not. I'm saying that I'm not ruling that out as a possibility, given the situation of what they have been doing as of late with PC.
Okay.
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
It's going to happen 100%. But I'm also not saying that it won't happen, because you kind of have to look at the writing on the wall when it comes to everything they've been doing. Now you can earn trophies on PlayStation through PC. I mean, and they're testing it out with Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, man. If that's happening and that's something that ends up taking off, I can see PlayStation lowering the time between releases on PlayStation and PC when it comes to their new games.
Well, I mean, that's fair, and I like how you said that we never speak in absolutes here, Persona, on CrossFire. Never say never is a great motto. I think that when it comes down to it, though, I think the latter part of your statement holds the most water, which was they may shrink that time down. Now, they said at minimum 12 months. They may say that they're going to 12 months. The only reason I say that is if you do, in fact, go day and date, no, does that mean that the console just doesn't sell? You can see there's Xbox Series X's and S's out there for sale. Absolutely. But the number is at almost half of what PlayStation's doing right now. And it's nowhere near in the hemisphere of what the Switch is doing right now as having it exclusive to the console first. So unless Sony has something up their sleeve we don't know, I really don't see how they can afford to do that. It would definitely hurt the console. There's no way around it. There's absolutely no way around it.
This is something that I was saying, I think it was last week. I was hosting a space on Twitter, and we were talking about this, me and Bari. PlayStation right now, PlayStation's leverage when it comes to the console is its exclusivity, right? As much as people are trying to put exclusivity in a bad light, exclusivity is what, as well as, obviously the games being good as well for both Nintendo and PlayStation, is what really keeping them in that console race and keeping them as the kings of the console space, right? Yes, third party is the larger piece of the pie when it comes to PlayStation, right? But if you look at Nintendo, it's mostly exclusives. That's really the bread and butter, and we see the success in that.
That's right.
I think when it comes to PlayStation and the console, if PlayStation does still truly care about the console and wants to maximize its profits, they would maintain a level of exclusivity when it comes to the games that do release. But I do think there is a world and a possibility where PlayStation may be saying, let's cut the time down even further, or even go day and date and just, maximize profits everywhere, right? And again, the test. I think the test might be, test a couple games. Obviously, they're not going to throw all their eggs in one basket and just go jump off the bridge with it. No, but I do think if that is something that PlayStation is pondering and thinking about doing, I do think it's something that they would test out with a couple of games first kind of like how Microsoft is testing out releasing their games on PlayStation.
No, Persona, you're right, but you could look at it this way too. When people see, I looked at it a little bit differently when they were putting trophies on PC. I looked at it as they love the double dip. I mean, almost every single person in the community says, "Oh my God, I played this game on PlayStation. I'm going to go play the definitive edition on PC." But now a lot of people are going to go, "I'm definitely going to go buy it on PC because I'm going to get double my trophies. So I'm going to get twice the trophies and I'm going to play it better." Right?
That could be a possibility as well. Okay, sorry, I mean,
no, you're fine. No, you're fine. You're fine. I just think when it comes down to it, let me use this example. I used it last week, and I know some of the people in the chat may have heard this. And I'll make it a lot shorter this week. But if I have award-winning pizzerias around New York, Persona. Okay, I have 15 stores. That's a big deal in New York. 15 different stores, 15 different locations. And you can only get my pizza and my sauce, my recipe at my place. All of a sudden, all the major supermarkets say they're going to pick up, not frozen, they're going to sell my pizzas. They're going to allow me to be in all of those supermarkets. There's way more people going through there. I'm going to make my profits, my revenue is going to go through the roof, right? But what ends up happening at the end of the day? At the end of the day, people are going to stop coming to my little corner store pizzerias, and they're going to be buying them as they go to buy their milk and eggs, and they'll pick up some of Mooch's pizza, okay, while they're in their grocery store. What ends up happening? Well, my stores close. My employees, I don't need them anymore, right? And now I'm making less money. Let's say in each of those pizzerias, I was making 300% on the liquor sales. Well, now I'm going to lose that money. Those liquor sales in air quotes are like my accessories, my VR2s, my headsets, my controllers, all this type of different equipment, the different things that PlayStation's had over the course of the Portal. Don't need all that anymore, right? Because now so my point being is what you do expand your profit margins on one thing, but all that other subsidiary money that you were making, which I think, unlike Microsoft that can take that hit, I don't think PlayStation can afford to lose that 300% on liquor. I think they need to make that money. So what I'm saying to you is you're not wrong in your numbers, but what ends up happening is you're one side you skyrocket, on the other you plummet, and we see that happening with Microsoft.
I just don't see why they would. Like, I mean, if in my opinion, if you ask me and you drill everything down to one major factor, the main reason Xbox is in the position it is today, because it does not have the killer games to draw the people to their console that you have to play right here. PlayStation and Nintendo both do that very successfully, and they're both successful. So why would they follow the unsuccessful path? Like, they're not going to do that. They may loosen up a little bit on PC. They may play friendly, but they're not doing that, man. They're going to go the successful route. They're going to follow the Nintendo playbook. You know what I mean?
No, so yeah, and this is why I said that, like, I'm not speaking in absolutes, because I'm of the ilk that
absolutely.
You already know how I feel, Mooch. Like, we've talked about this for years. I do think that exclusivity, and this is why I say PlayStation's the strength of PlayStation in regards to this is that exclusivity when it comes to the success of the PlayStation console. They're doing a lot of partnerships and deals and all these other different things, and putting out all these other accessories that complement the PlayStation. I think it would also be foolish to go day and date and hurt the PlayStation, the PlayStation 6 trajectory of success, because now it's day and date. Not saying that it would just flatline, but you would lose some sales, right?
Absolutely.
You would lose that, and that's why I'm saying it wouldn't. That wouldn't be something that I would want them to do, but. Again, I wouldn't put it past PlayStation to doing that as well. Like, because look, at the beginning of this generation, they were putting a couple of PS4 games on PC as a test. We went from games as a test going on PC to now having integrated PlayStation Network into games that you buy from PlayStation on Steam. I mean, listen, you understand?
Well, there is.
If it walks like a duck and quacks like a fucking duck. You feel me? Like, I just feel like when we look at everything that PlayStation has done throughout this generation from a PC standpoint, if this was 3 years ago, Mooch, I'd be with you 100%. But now I'm only with you 60%.
That's fine. But what has changed over those years? Has the computer? Did the personal computer just come out? Did they just
no? I'll tell you what's changed. What's changed is now they are in a games as a service market. And now they're doing day and date with their games as a service games that are our first party titles.
They've also found out that games as a service games they've cut in half, if not more. They found out that model's not selling like it used to. It's not the gold rush it once was. So the point I'm trying to make here at the end of the day is it's not like anything that Microsoft has been doing since 2016 is brand new, and Sony's like, hey, we should do that. Well, Microsoft put the blueprint out there a long time ago.
And I think from PlayStation, they are looking at Microsoft and saying, yeah, let's not jump off the bridge like they did, which is why they're not just because I can tell you where Phil Spencer, in my opinion, at least, where Phil Spencer messed up, in my opinion, beyond repair. When they were talking Game Pass and all that stuff and said all first-party titles would go to Game Pass day and date into the subscription service. You did not leave any wiggle room. You didn't leave the door half cracked.
Right.
You didn't.
Right.
So, and if they try to renege on that, it would be severely, although I think they should, it would be severely bad press.
Yes.
Because this, and again, a company that's trying to make money, they're not going to give you a $300 million Spider-Man 2 to put in a $15 a month fucking service. That's just not happening.
Yeah. We'd have people tweeting all the Metacritics of the games that they now have to buy.
Exactly.
Like, you want me to buy this for this Metacritic score?
It would be catastrophic, right? But they did not leave the door cracked. And this is why I think for PlayStation, they're not being as blunt and saying, yeah, we're going to just go day and date everything. No, they're letting you know we still care about the console. We still this, that, and the third, whatever. But, you don't let the right hand know what the left hand's doing. You understand?
Yeah.
So, yes, right now, that might be the narrative and that might be the case. But 5 years from now or 3 to 5 years from now, when we do have a PlayStation 6, that might not necessarily be the case where, yes, the console will still be important.
Absolutely.
And they still will want to sell that, but they may also expedite and move forward with putting things out on PC at a faster rate.
Hey, Mooch, I got to cut in here, buddy. I got to roll, man.
All right,
thanks
Gammon.
for having me today, man.
Gammon, I appreciate you being here, buddy.
Appreciate the chat and everybody.
Thank you, Gammon.
Real quick,
Go ahead,
one thing I was
Kofi.
thinking about, with the porting to PC or day and date with PC is I guess because we know specifically that a lot of the PC versions of these first party titles are handled by Nixes, I feel like PlayStation can afford the the rhythm of allowing a first-party studio to release something as close to their vision as possible, and then allow Nixes to kind of come in and stagger the releases. And it reminds me of something like how Red Dead Redemption 2 was handled first on console and then on PC.
Right.
And I think, chasing that level of optimization on PC with constant new GPUs coming out, constant new CPUs coming out is a really thoughtful way of saying, hey, this game's not going to come out with like a ton of bugs on the PC version, or we can mitigate a lot of the problems that a new generation of hardware, PC I'm talking specifically, might be encountering at the point of this title's release. For example, let's say Horizon 3 is coming out on console first in 2026, and then PC, 8 months later, because a new roll of GPUs have come out and they have some new feature that you just haven't given the engineers enough time to make a good game on them.
Kofi, just to piggyback off of what you said initially, this is different, okay? But I maybe it's just because I'm hungry at 8:30 here in New York. Persona. My biggest thing is this. We all know this. We all say, "Oh, you got to go see this spot, right? You got to go check out this spot. They get the best food. They've got the unbelievable prices. This and that." But the thing that matters is you can only get that item at that spot. Sony has the IP. Nintendo, I'm not going to just say Sony. Nintendo and Sony have their IPs that people crave, want, and will pay for. Even outside of what we say in the community. People are doing that. You see the numbers for PlayStation 5 and Switch still selling over and over and over again. They haven't even gone into a decrease. There's been no sale on the PS5 yet. It's still $499. So my point, and now we have a PS5 Pro coming out that's probably going to be $599. My point is that, and people are they going to swarm to buy that? No, but you'll get the diehards that'll get it, and it's cheaper parts, etc., etc. They'll make money on it. That's not an us problem. That's a them problem. But at the end of the day, they know that if they want to do, like Kofi was saying, they can stagger it. You see Rockstar. Rockstar makes, they're going to probably make $1 billion day one with GTA 6. Why aren't they putting that out? They're going to say, well, resources and this and that and this and that. GTA 5 came out in, what was it, 2012, 2013? What are we talking about here? They're gonna stagger it because they're gonna squeeze a year out of consoles, and then you, probably everyone listening that has a capable PC is gonna buy it again. My point being is that Sony sees that this is what's working right now. Is they have the IP, they have the recipe. So yes, could they do what you said? I completely stand behind you and say never speak in absolutes at Absolutely, Persona. I'm right there with you. But why wouldn't they wait 12 months, make sure that people that are diehard gamers, people that want to play the game day one, buy a $500 console, buy 3 or 4 controllers in their favorite color that they have, right? Buy 2 of their headsets, buy the game at $70, and then the gaming community and the hardcore gamers that have a capable PC will buy it again. And I see True Witty says here, he says, you don't get double trophies, just pop on what's PlayStation. That's not true, because remakes, when I bought the remake, I could just literally play the remake again and pop trophies. So maybe you don't have to play through it, but the point is you get double the trophies. I played through Last of Us Part 1 remake. I played it right through again and got the platinum on that one. But I got to tell you, I think you could bring your save file over. I'm not sure. Maybe that's only on remasters. Point is that Sony can do whatever they want, True Witty. If they want you to be able to play it again and pop the trophies again for the game on PC, they certainly could finagle that. Go ahead, Persona.
Side note, Mooch, man, I'm watching Elden Ring. You was fighting that boss. That boss was whipping your ass towards the end.
Was. Yes, yes, he was.
Yo,
I'm trying. Listen, I'm trying not to farm too much. I'm trying to go into these things a good fight to give the.
When I was playing Elden Ring, I farmed the hell out of that game to get them souls, boy. And
you always farming souls, man.
You doing the blood build too? I'm with you with the katanas. All right, that was my build too. So I see you, Mooch.
The samurai. Samurai's the way to go.
Yes, sir. All right, so back to but that's the thing. I'm not saying that this is what PlayStation is doing. Mm-hmm. Because obviously, I believe that the trickle down method is the most effective method, kind of like how movies do it.
Yeah,
you see it in the theaters, then you buy it on DVD and Blu-ray, and then it comes to HBO Max or wherever, and you watch it. I think that's an effective strategy, and it's been working for PlayStation as well. Because a lot of the sales of their first-party titles, Spider-Man sold 10 million in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. God of War sold 15 million in how long? Still selling now, still charting.
Yep.
Last of Us still charting. Spider-Man still charting, right? Horizon did extremely well, right? So, and obviously Helldivers 2 doing extremely, extremely well, right? Mm-hmm. So I do think that when it comes to their current strategy of a trickle-down method, it is an effective strategy. But at the same time, I do think that they might be looking at how they can maximize more quicker. And a part of that might be to put some of these first-party single-player titles on PC a little bit quicker. I'm not saying that I'm not saying do that. I'm saying that might be something that they're thinking about, but they're making it enticing with everything. You're integrating PlayStation into a Steam version of a game. Come on, man. I'm looking at that thinking,
yeah,
you're definitely setting things up for some, for a layup. You setting something up for a layup you want to do later on, right? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that I want that. I'm not saying that it's a great thing to do. All I'm saying is that is I'm looking at things now in the landscape of PlayStation and the landscape of what they're doing with PC, and I think that is a possibility that could be on the table. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, listen, I can't take that. There's no way to argue taking that possibility off the table. It's impossible to argue that.
Because as much as people are saying that it won't happen, they can't say for certain that it. As much as people saying it won't happen, they can't say for certain that it will or won't happen either.
That's right. The only way that you can ever have an argument against that is if somebody from Sony themselves came out and said, we are not and will not go on.
And you notice Mooch. Yeah. You notice they never done, and this is why I say, when you look at Phil Spencer and what he said way back in 2017 with Game Pass, they shut the door and they didn't leave a crack. PlayStation has never come out, even with the Herman Hulst interview 2 years ago, when they were talking about their strategy for games as a service and single player games when it came to games releasing on PC. Herman Hulst never said we aren't going to be putting our single player games on PC. He said we will judge and determine when these games will release on PC. He never said they would not.
That's correct.
Which leaves the door open for them to pivot and say, okay, we'll do it 18 months, right? So if God of War released in 2018, if God of War Ragnarok released in 2022, we'll release it on PC in 2024, right? It gives them full autonomy to do that because they never spoke in absolutes when it came to their strategy for PC. They only gave you a small bits of details of what they hope to do with PC.
If we're playing the words game, you're 1,000% right. The thing about it is that Microsoft going to PC makes money for Microsoft. You have to have Windows to play their games. So they were going to make money off of you one way or the other. Sony going to PC day one only does what you said earlier, right? It can maximize profits on the other end of the scale, but they don't make.
It would hurt
money.
The console to a degree.
It would hurt but Microsoft gets the double dip on PC. You have to have Windows and you have to buy their game, and you have to have their service more than likely. No, I'm not saying you have to have their service, but you're more than likely. So it's 3. You're going to subscribe monthly. You have to have Windows installed, and or you have to buy the game. Right, so either they're going to double dip in one of those facets. With PlayStation, they're not. I would love to sit in the front row and hear Herman Hull say, "We're going day and date first party single player games, and here's why, and this is how we are going to thrive as Sony PlayStation on PC." I would love to hear that, because when they do it, all you're doing is robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're taking money from the console side and you're moving it over to the PC side, unless they have something. And I'm all ears. When they say I gotta hear this,
but that's why. But Mooch, that's why I said PlayStation's strongest suit is their exclusivity. What is keeping PlayStation as the dominant console is their partnerships, their third-party timed exclusive deals, and their first-party titles.
Absolutely.
That is, the strategy is working, which is why I'm saying, as of right now, that doesn't seem likely that they would do day and date. Correct. Because their strategy is working. But going back to when we talk about words. When it comes to how they're the things they were talking about when it came to putting things on PC, they never spoke in absolute. So the moment that strategy stops working, they pivot, which is why I'm saying I'm not going to speak in absolutes and say PlayStation is never going to do day and date with their single player titles, because we if this was 5 years ago, Mooch, I was saying that they weren't putting shit on PC.
Right.
Look where we're at now.
Exactly. But when you look at where we are, I mean, everything just is a matter of fact, right? I mean, I don't care where you work. There's certain places right now where they're removing like desk phones from people's offices. I don't know if you guys are into this world. I've read this article.
No, there's no desk phone in my company, bro.
Yeah, but 6 years ago, everybody had a desk phone. So my point being is this is the natural evolution of where we're going, guys. So this is something that, to say 5 years ago there was no way it was going to go on PC. Sure. We didn't see Microsoft even doing that in 2015. We're like, no, they're not going to do that. But then that's the natural evolution. But PlayStation is on PC. They're there. Check your PC, guys. They're there. So they are there. So do they have to go day one? Well,
as of right now, no, they don't. I don't think they do.
It has to make sense. It has to make sense for them. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, it has to make sense. As of right now, today, it doesn't make sense because they're still extremely successful on PlayStation when it comes to the sale of their games and the sale of the console.
But once they can make a point to where they can capitalize and not hurt whatever they want to do with their PlayStation brand as far as the home market and having that console in your home, once they can move away from that, then I completely say, I'm all ears. I got to hear this. I'm excited to hear what that strategy will be. So let me change subjects just slightly here, guys, real quick. And Kofi, I'll start with you because I know Persona, your blood pressure may be up already, but this is going to really put the mercury right out of the thermostat for you, buddy. This is going to do it. Kofi, so this was I believe it was a poll put out by, shout out to Spawn Wave. And he was just asking the question. And I thought it was, it was funny. I answered it because I follow Spawn Wave and I was answering this question. And the question was, as we enter, this is not verbatim, guys. I'm paraphrasing. As we enter the fourth year of this generation, do you feel gaming is in a rut at this point, Kofi? And I'm just curious, what do you think? I mean, myself personally, and a lot of people thought that gaming is in a rut right now. Now, it depends on how you want to actually kind of define rut. Do you mean lack of games? You're in a gaming rut, meaning like there's so many games you don't really want to play right now. You see people say it all the time, like my backlog is so big and I have so many games and I'm kind of like, I don't even know what to play. I'm kind of in a gaming rut. I see people say it that way. And then other people think gaming rut, like there's just no quality games out there. I don't want to play. However you want to interpret it. I can't interpret what the actual, but it said, are you in a gaming rut right now? Do you think that we are? I think there's a plethora of games out there of all different types of genres. I don't see how you could be in a gaming rut right now. There's so many great games out there to play.
I am absolutely, like, my first reaction to hearing about gaming rut, I don't know if Spawnwave personally felt that way or not, but
no, I don't think
it's just
did.
to die laughing.
I think he just was asking the question. He was just asking the question.
Yeah, like, just thinking about all the different, I guess, genres of games that I'm playing right now, I am in absolute heaven. Just to name a couple, in different stages of life. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that is my main, like, sandwich right now, like my main meal. It is fantastic for me. I mean, I blacked out for that game, as in I did not watch any trailers, I did not play any demos, so I really was introduced to a lot of mechanics all at once that I did not know existed, and for me that is making my experience amazing. Another thing, Gran Turismo 7. Gran Turismo 7 has released update after free update after free update, and adding new cars and tracks. And that has been the type of experience I love from sport, but has been done so much better in 7. In terms of on PC, there's this really cool game that takes place. I forget I think it's in the late 1800s, called the Thaumaturge. I don't know if anybody's heard of this game. It's a top-down game. Very much looks like something like a Divinity Original Sin, or maybe like a Baldur's Gate 3. Very, I would say, niche, but it is amazing. And then, of course, we have DLC for Remnant 2 that just came out yesterday. I know people on this podcast know I always bring up Remnant 2 because it's amazing. So I'm so happy to return to that game a year later. So when I'm, stuffing my face and feeling like obese from all this quality, when people say rut, it makes me kind of cringe. Now, I did see one person post that, PlayStation hasn't delivered anything, but we see that he's like a typical COD player, or he only plays 2K or Madden. Mm-hmm. And that crowd's always going to be like that. Now, okay, if I'm going to be critical, I would say execution has been done very well. For example, like Helldivers 2, if you look at it on the surface, that's a formula we've known for decades. But their execution has been really great, and that's why it resonates. That's right. Not necessarily originality. And if we're thinking of like original games like VR and having something that is completely different and it like take off sales wise, I don't know if there's any game that has been critically acclaimed as original and sold well, like some, new VR game that's the thing to get. And that's a valid criticism to have. I know we have lots of, VR tools out, right? Meta is around, PlayStation has their device. So some of these platforms are here, but we aren't necessarily seeing game design changing in a way that feels like, the jump from PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, or, Gen 5 to Gen 6. So I resonate with people who might want something innovative like that. But I don't know if people who are complaining about those things are really seeking out those types of experiences. Or, are they just sitting around on Twitter complaining about some new game landing in their lap, or are they looking around for some amazing gem that they would love? You make a really good point there, Persona. I gotta reiterate what Kofi just said, because that's the one category that I really do feel Kofi hit. That if someone said they were in a rut, think about as we went from PS1 to PS2, 2 to 3, then also from the Xbox to the Xbox 360 era. The first time you played that Gears, we talk about this all the time. First time you played Gears, or first time you played BioShock. In that generation, you're like, wow, this is gaming. Wow, gaming's taking that next leap forward, right? And you sit here and you say, okay, and I know a lot of people, I'm truly enjoying Elden Ring. You guys, a little shameless plug there. Go over and check me out on twitch.tv, Mooch TV, same as here, M00CHTV. We're going to be going live again on Twitch on Saturday. But the point of the matter is that these games, like, that's an open world Souls, right? And I talked to a lot of people in the Souls community, and they were like, yeah, it's an open world Dark Souls 4, and it's more than that. But you guys know what I'm just trying to say. Like, what do you think when it comes to that aspect of it, Persona? Because listen, anybody that follows Persona, okay, I'll plug him right now. It's Gaming with Persona, okay, on YouTube, and it's Persona Speaks over on X now. Anybody that follows him there knows that Persona is not in a gaming rut in any kind of fashion, because he's playing games and he's posting them and he's always putting videos out. So Persona, I don't mean in that aspect, but Kofi's saying that we haven't had
that next big game. Like even Cyberpunk, which I think Cyberpunk 2077, after it got its problems fixed, is still one of the largest, most impressive games out there. But it doesn't really, it's not like you play that game and you're like, I've never seen this before. They did what? So it's like, and I even think when you think about GTA 6 is, I gotta be honest with you, I can't wait. You want to talk about double, triple dipping? Okay, I'm going to be buying that thing on PlayStation 5 Pro. Then I'm going to be
We're going to be buying GTA 6 for the next 20 years.
20 years, buddy. I've got that on Xbox 360. I've got it on PS. I think definitely on PS5, Xbox One, Xbox, Series consoles,
Bro,
PC.
I've been buying GTA 5 since I was in college. Bro.
Dude, we're not done, and we're probably not done yet. We got one more buy in us. My point being is that GTA 6, I'm excited because I think Rockstar is the one group that's going to be able to get me to go, holy shit, they did what? But even now, I'm just saying, because what we have seen looks like a more impressive, more well-built world, definitely a much more saturated world with people and things going on, and they're saying we can walk into buildings now and it'll be more immersive, and but it's more GTA, which there's nothing wrong with, by the way, guys in the audience listening. I'm just saying, when's that next move to that next push Persona? Do you think that's what people are referring to as I'm in a bit of a rut? Here we are, we went from the Xbox One and PS4 era to this one, and we still seemingly don't have anything that really kind of moved the needle to say not next gen graphics or ray tracing, but next gen immersion.
So Mooch, I'm gonna keep it all the way a stack with you, brother. You understand? I'm about to keep it real. Mooch, Kofi, I'm about to speak from the heart. Shout out to my boy Barry. Listen.
Please, shout out to Barry. Yeah.
All this gaming rut talk is bullshit to me personally, right? So here's my thing. For me personally, there has been a lot of games within the first 4 months of this year that have released that I have been highly, highly anticipating and have played and put a lot of time in. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Final Fantasy, Helldivers, Rise of Ronin.
Yep.
Dragon's Dogma 2, which I just platinum like 2 weeks ago. Stellar Blade, which comes out at midnight, right? For me personally, I'm not in any type of gaming rut this year. I wasn't in a gaming rut last year. Like, there's a ton of games that have been releasing for me where I am happy as a gamer when it comes to the great games that I've been playing from the industry. Now, from the mindset of like a lot of people that are saying that they're in a rut per se on Twitter and social media, I would argue what is your preference when it comes to gaming? Because there really has been something that has been releasing since the start of this year for everyone. If you're a JRPG guy or girl, you kidding me? Just this week alone, Euden Chronicles, 100 Heroes, that's a Suikoden successor. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the RPG of RPGs, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. We got Shin Megami Tensei 5 coming to PlayStation.
Yeah.
It's not, if you're a shooter or into the co-op play, Helldivers.
Yeah.
If you're into fighting games, Tekken. There's been something releasing for Unicorn Overlord. Thank you. Shout out to Brian East in the chat. There's been a ton of games releasing this year that satisfy all different genres of gamers.
That's right.
So for people to say that they're in a rut, I would want to look at what you're actually into when it comes to gaming. And are you actually gaming? Are you actually playing games? Because typically people that talk like this on Twitter, and nothing against the Spawn Wave guy. I'm not really. This is not me kind of.
No,
because he kind of just put the question out there. But I'm not really.
Yeah.
This is not geared towards him. This is more so the conversation that grew from that, where you had a lot of people agreeing and saying this and that, and just saying really outlandish things. What are you playing?
Yeah.
What's your taste? Are you really gaming?
Well, that's...
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
those are my questions that I ask, because I have a hard time believing that someone is having a hard time finding something to put time into this year.
Yeah, and that's why I got to actually, it's not because you're here, Persona, I say it when you're not on the show too, but that's kind of what gravitated me towards What's Up PlayStation is you guys opened up my eyes to different types of genres, different types of games. And like right now, currently, like you just said, like I'm going through Elden Ring right now. That's its own type of thing, right? I am playing Helldivers 2. I know that you guys know that you guys are all gonna like throw tomatoes at me, and that's fine. I still play a lot of Call of Duty. I do like that. You can't take that. And I know Persona.
Listen, Mooch, I might be right back there with you come fall if Treyarch knocks it out the park.
That's what I'm
gonna be right back there with you.
Listen, and I'm doing the multiplayer now like crazy, and I'm doing Warzone. I'm really playing that to death. But then you just said too, I'm probably 60%, 65% through Rebirth. I'm enjoying that. I'm just taking that through because, like I said, I'm playing these other games, and then at midnight tonight, I know that the deluxe version of Stellar Blade is waiting. So
Stellar games, right? Yes, sir.
So that launches, and then of course, listen, let's open it up even further, right? Another month away, we got Hellblade 2.
Hellblade 2.
Hellblade 2 is coming out. I'll be playing that. So like,
and then summertime, you got the Elden Ring DLC.
Yep,
you got
that's why I'm doing Elden Ring now.
Monster Hunter Stories 1 and 2 coming to PlayStation.
Yes, that's hype, man.
Both of those are pre-ordered. Can't wait to play those. Then in August, you've got Black Myth Wukong.
That's right.
And then I'm sure during Summer Game Fest time, we're gonna get Star Wars Outlaws August as well.
That's right.
There's a ton of games releasing. This is why I just have a hard time. Anybody saying they're in a rut, I want to know what you play. Like, what's your genres? Because if you're saying you're a first-person shooter person or multiplayer person only, or first-person shooter person, I can see because the FPS scene right now is kind of trash in my opinion. Like, it's not really as
the
popping.
FPS is taking it back.
Yeah, the FPS scene is pretty dry right now.
I tried the finals; it was okay. Like, I did have some good sessions, but
I'm good.
Listen, that's the thing. I'm good too.
I'm good, bro.
No, I'm really good with it. I'm good with it.
But yeah, so like that might be where people are coming from. Some of these people that are saying it on Twitter and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm in a rut." But for me personally, I'm not in no rut. There's actually too many games. I can't keep up. The new update for Grand Blue Fantasy Relink comes out next week. Actually, no, comes out tomorrow. I am not gonna have time to play that because I'm juggling Rise of Ronin and Stellar Blade. Then I still got a platinum Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. There's no rut over here, man.
No, but it's funny you brought something up that's actually true. Remember, you go back, I don't know how many years, I don't have it documented in front of me here, but you go back a few years and everybody was saying the FPS, like it was saturated, right? Now, I just don't feel like there's been a great, like, I don't like it. Just it doesn't even have to be a games as a. That's the thing. Everyone stepped away. If it's not games as a service, we don't get a really good. Has there been a good first person?
Even the
shooter?
games as a service first person shooters. It's just I don't know. The first person, the FPS genre right now just is really lacking when it comes to.
What's that new one coming out? Is it called Judas?
Yeah, but Judas is more like a BioShock.
I was gonna say, isn't that the BioShock successor or something like that?
That's like the only thing that I can think of.
That's Ken Levine's. That's Ken Levine's, and you're looking at 2025. So
yeah, that's not coming out this year. But I'm sure we're gonna get a ton of dates for games that are going to release this fall at Summer Game Fest.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second here while we wait for Hunter. Hunter's going to be coming in a moment here. Hopefully talk a little bit about Stellar Blade. But Persona, we don't know. This is the first time in a long time. We don't know what Sony's got. What are they going to put on their... If they do have seemingly a PS5 Pro this fall, what is it they're putting... What are they selling with it? What's the big ticket item they're going to match up with that? Like, what are we getting this fall?
That's the dilemma, right? Which is what PlayStation has to, if because obviously nothing's confirmed yet, so let's not speak in absolutes. But if a PlayStation 5 Pro is slated to release this year,
right?
And shout out to Jeff Grubb, put out there that we should be getting some type of PlayStation something. He didn't say showcase, but he said something PlayStation related in terms of an event in May. I'm hoping it's a showcase, right? But if there is something happening in May where PlayStation is going to be showing the bag, I do hope that they would show off some first party titles. Obviously, we know that Concord is slated to release this fall. That's an FPS multiplayer games as a service game coming from Firewalk Studio. Hopefully that lives up to the hype. It kind of sticks to landing. I'm hoping. But I want to see Sony Ben. I want to see Sucker Punch. Ghost of Tsushima 2. That's also rumored to be announced and whatnot. So I think PlayStation, if they are going to show the Pro, they're going to show some of those. They're going to have to show some of those first party titles running on the Pro to really entice people to want to pick up the console.
It would be really nice to see a Blue Point game.
Yes, Blue Point's another studio. It's been 4 years. Come on, Blue Point.
Yeah,
Come on.
Like, show us what you're, at least show us what you're working on. Do you think they're doing a new IP, or do we think that they're going to be doing what they do best, which is remaking a beloved classic?
I might be happy either way.
I would be. There's
I think
no wrong
they make a
answer.
Bloodborne remake.
If they're doing that, the word, but the word of the street is that's PS6.
It's 2 games, like Bloodborne or probably SOCOM or something like that.
Ooh, yeah.
Or original IP. I wouldn't mind seeing an original IP from Bluepoint, honestly. Just to see what they can do, and they can show off their creative chops with that, because they really do know how to make very beautiful looking games. Like, their games look really good. What they did with Demon Souls, with Shadow Colossus, and things like that, those games look very, very beautiful. I wouldn't mind seeing original IP from them.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. I mean, but I think at the end of the day, like, I see a lot of people saying, what was someone just said here in the chat? I was just seeing what they said. Oh, I don't see it now anymore. Concord, they were saying Concord. But I don't think Concord doesn't have that household name. That's not going to be able to, you know what I mean? B Money saying Concord will be the big game. B, you think so, B?
Oh, Concord.
So Concord
is the FPS multiplayer game, man. And I'm really interested to see what that game is, because the devs, the Fireworks studio that are making that game, they're compiled of Bungie or Destiny, Call of Duty, and a lot of the big FPS genre devs work there. So they're making an FPS multiplayer game. I need to see. I'm excited for that. I want to see what's up with that, but we need to see it. We don't know nothing, and it's supposed to be coming out this year, and we're already going into the 5th month of the year. Let's hope we see something.
Well, as we wait for Hunter to kind of get here with his review, I want to kind of transition over to Stellar Blade, because I'm kind of excited to talk about this. So I'll start with you, Persona, because I know that you're literally chomping at the bit. You're playing at midnight tonight. I don't know if you plan on streaming it, or you're just going to send out some.
Oh nah, I don't stream. I don't stream.
I don't know.
Brand new releases.
I was
like
gonna
that,
say,
no.
you never know, Persona. You got.
I don't know if I'm a step. I'm getting old, Mooch. I don't know if I can step. I ain't get to get no napping today, so I might fall asleep.
Listen, every single time. That's why I always watch what I say. I'll usually stay up, kind of download, make sure everything's good, and then I'll check it out for a minute, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna play this in the morning. But you know what I mean. Well, first of all, you want to enjoy the game, right? First and foremost. So it's like, I don't feel like you get into like 2:00 in the morning before you get into like the first like.
Plus, I gotta work in the morning. So I'm like,
saying, me too. So
I might not stay up till midnight.
Might not make it tonight, but nonetheless. So what do you think, Persona? What are you thinking of when you saw? I believe right now, guys. I usually check just before, but I usually check and see if what it's. I think it's at an 82 meta, and I don't really care so much about the meta when it goes across much of it. But
yeah, it's at 82 right now.
82. What do you think, Persona? Kofi, I want to hear what you think as well. Do you think this is that from what you've played in the demo, what you've seen is going on with Shift Up, and how they've like already got New Game Plus, they've already got everything coming. They got like a game coming within a game on launch day. What do you think when you see this, as far as just the game itself, Persona?
So for me personally, I don't really care about Metacritic. I've preached that sentiment for years. There's JRPGs I played that are like 70, 69. You feel me? So like, or Avengers. Avengers is a game that's very low meta, but I enjoyed that game for what it was. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But me and Barry played that quite a bit, and I enjoyed my time with it. Right. I don't really put a lot of stock into Metacritic, but in terms of what I play from the demo, I love the game. There were certain small little gripes with like the parry that was a little bit off, but Shift Up has been working diligently to upgrade that stuff. They actually just released a patch today where the input time and the input delay for the parry and blocking and stuff like that has been fixed. So as far as that was really my only issue. I'm interested in the story from what I saw with the demo. I'm interested in the characters. And, for me, I'm excited for the game, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Kofi, what do you think? I want to hear what your take is before we get into some of the other things that have been going on in the news.
I'll be dead honest. Just like for Rebirth, I really have not seen a lot of the game. What was, I think, demonstrated at one of these shows showed like enough gameplay for me to take the risk and say, I think I'm going to enjoy this game. I'm just going to buy it. So I don't know, games that I'm very excited for as of late, I'm just ready to jump in. Now with the Metacritic, of course, I've definitely been listening on Twitter, and I've heard a lot of controversial opinions about how a Korean developed game should be developed based on ignorant biases. But I'm not going to try to virtue signal because I'm not perfect either. But I just hear a lot of people making a lot of assumptions on how a game should be made in 2024, and I can appreciate Shift Up for, in my opinion, sticking to whatever they wanted to make. So I think that is definitely encouraging to hear. And unfortunately, I'll have to wait a little bit because my copy's coming from overseas. But I'm ready. I'm ready to jump in. I think it's going to be great.
What do you get, Kofi? Kofi, this isn't the first time you're on Crossfire, and you've mentioned you're waiting for your copy to come from overseas. What are the benefits you get from actually getting the copy right from overseas? Because we have the option to have any language we want. I mean, or most languages.
Yeah. So this is going to sound really nitpicky, but this is why I love PlayStation and any console that could do doesn't have region locking, which is almost none now. I often like to play my games not just with Japanese voices, but also Japanese text. And while a lot of publishers like Square Enix are very agnostic about that, where you can easily buy in the English or the US region and have both of those options, many publishers do not. And specifically for Shift Up, even though it's a Korean-made game, I wanted a version of the game that has all of the languages available to me. And only the Japanese version has both Korean and Japanese lip syncing with Japanese text. So I can play the game in its original form, which will be, I'll just play it as, like with Hangul or with, the Korean language. And then for my New Game Plus, I love to just immerse in the Japanese language because I'm trying to maintain it every day. And the US version does not have that. So that was something they announced. And often, many, many times, publishers like Koei Tecmo, they will not include Japanese text in their US region release. And they don't announce it. It's not on the store. You kind of have to dig around and find. So I just find myself getting the import version. Here's the last thing. Yeah. Because the yen is so weak, if I can find good shipping, I can get the game for cheaper. Like, for example, God of War. I bought God of War for like $50.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was that much cheaper importing it. So I'm just like, hey, that's what I do.
That explains it at least. And I think when it comes down to it too, for those of you that don't know, Kofi, I'm not going to use the word fluent because if I say fluent, you're gonna go Mooch, stop. But you're pretty damn close. Are you fluent now or close to it in to speak English, Japanese, and do you have another language?
I don't have a third language. I'm very interested in it. I'll say I've been studying for 11 years. I've been doing translations for at least 5 years. But yeah, I guess I'll say I'm fluent, but I kind of hate, you're right. I do kind of hate that.
I know you don't like it. That's why I didn't say that. But so guys, just a sidestep here for a second. And Persona, you're going to correct me on my the way I actually pronounce this. I'm going to say it wrong. Kofi might too. Tales of Kenzera. Am I saying that right? That's what you guys are.
Tales of Kenzera. Yeah.
That's what you're watching on screen right now, and I got to tell you guys something. I love it, and maybe that's because I hope this is. I liked Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I like Ori and the Blind Forest. This is very similar to that. Of course, totally different story, different powers, but the play style reminds me of it, and I'm in love with this game. This game is phenomenal. I don't know is it free for all PS Plus? So I don't know if you have to have PS Plus Extra. I'm not sure.
I think it's PS Plus Extra. I think I did see that.
Yeah, it's got to be PS Plus Extra because it's a part of the catalog release and not the essential monthly game pack release.
Thank you, Persona.
This looks kind of good,
dude. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Do yourself a favor. Not that you don't have like Persona said. Not that you don't have enough games to play right now, and a game's coming out at midnight. But if you have the ability to get this game, listen, pick it up. This game's great.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I played a little bit of it last night. Played about 3 hours. I like it. It's a really cool game. I like it, and the story seems pretty interesting. Pretty heartfelt with what he's trying to do and whatnot. I like it. Combat's fun too. I like it.
Beautiful art.
Yeah. It's a very pretty game too.
Dude, the game is great. The story is great. The voice acting is amazing. The music is great. And I also got to say, like, and it plays really well. Like, the mechanics are spot on. And again, if anyone goes, well, what's it like? It's legitimately a lot like Ori. So if you like that type of game, you can see what I'm doing. Double jump, you got your dash. And the thing that's funny about this game is they give you a lot of the things that you had to play Ori for probably about 3 to 4 hours before you got some of these abilities. You get these, like, I don't know, within the first hour.
Right away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
they kind of throw a lot at you pretty quickly because it's not really a long game.
No, it's not. I was going to say
they throw a lot at you.
I played about an hour of it, and I beat the first boss, or whatever you want to call that first, your first mini boss or whatever it was. You'll see it on film. I stopped after a while because then I was like, I had actually put some video together for CrossFire, so I was like, I got to stop playing last night. But this game is definitely worth you checking out. But yeah, when it comes down to it, do you think Stellar Blade is earned all this? You think it's good attention, Persona, that Stellar Blade's gotten? Because look at the question I ask here. It's scrolling right now on the bottom of your screens here. Are the scores indicative of the quality of the game or the character model? I feel like they went, and I know Kofi said that's why he said kudos to the dev team at Shift Up for following their dream and what they wanted the game to be. But I mean, the character model. Let's not kid ourselves, Persona. The character model is getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Hey, listen, man. The character model definitely got some good assets. You understand? But at the end of the day, the game itself, when it comes to the combat and the story, that's really, for me personally, what drew me into Stellar Blade. And I think when it comes to the reviews, I definitely seen a couple of. I really haven't been looking at like reviews, reading, and all that stuff, but. In scrolling and stuff like that, I've seen like a couple of people show screenshots of like people criticizing some of the outfits and how she's too sexy and things like that. And I've seen that stuff kind of fly past my timeline. Listen, at the end of the day, this is the it's weird too because we always talk about how there's a lot of virtual signaling that goes along where people always say let the developers create what they want.
Yeah, let them cook.
Let them cook. Let them create their vision and all this bullshit that people tend to always say in virtual signal on the timeline to look good. But you get a game like Stellar Blade, and all of a sudden it's a problem that the character's too sexy. At the end of the day, if this is the game that Shift Up wanted to make in terms of the aesthetic of the character, I don't have an issue with that, especially if the gameplay in the story, when I experience it for myself, also are as good. And from what I played with the demo, the gameplay and the story were definitely hitting those high notes for me as well. So I think it's social media, so you're always going to get the big attention when it comes to stuff like that. But
really quick, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just have to bring up like how Baldur's Gate 3 didn't get this same kind of press.
Right.
Even though, for a couple of reasons, this kind of makes me salty, so I'm sorry to bring this up, but I feel like certain characters do have a kind of sexual outfit. I'm thinking mostly like Karlach. I love her as a character, and by the way, I love the game. But not only is, like, some of the female characters dressed kind of sexy, like, this is a slight spoiler, okay? I'll try to keep it light, but, like, within, like, the opening... chapter, there's a lot of like horniness going on, and I'm like, yo, like we can just cuddle, like we don't have to do all that right now, which is fine. Like, trust me, I love the game. It's one of the best games I've ever played, and I love Larian. But like I bet you in Shift Up's in Stellar Blade, I don't think there's going to be any of that. Yet nobody's talking about it for Baldur's Gate. So it just feels so unbalanced in judgment, and then both games are going to be violent. So
I think it's one of those things where, like, obviously the way Stellar Blade looks and the outfits and stuff like that, that's going to draw attention because that's what drew a lot of attention when the demo came out, where a lot of people that weren't really paying attention to the game started seeing the gameplay and how the character looked and decided to try the demo and fell in love with the game, and now it's looking like it's going to be a critical success. When it comes to the sales of the game, we'll see, once those numbers come out. But this is kind of like the thing in reverse, right? So you got one side of Twitter, or one side of the argument of people saying that they're tired of seeing quote unquote ugly female characters in games, right? And you've got that whole thing going on with like, Star Wars Outlaws, and how people were just criticizing that 2 weeks ago because they felt that she looked unattractive and all this other stuff. But then you look on the other side of the coin, and now you've got people who are criticizing the game because the character is too attractive,
right?
And too revealing or too sexual or whatever. So I think this is just a situation of you can't please everybody,
right?
But again, what's most important is gameplay. Gameplay is king, and if the gameplay is good and the gameplay is matching the visuals, I'm all, I don't care if what the character is looking like, as long as the game is good. So
it's a win-win. It's a win-win. Nobody was saying this for Nier either, right? Nier was very, you could say,
Nier got a little bit of blowback, but not nearly like what we're seeing now. But yeah, it got a little bit.
Do you think it's also a case where like this is the game right now? Like there's not a lot of there's no other big game release right now, and it's the center of attention. Does that play a bit of a role?
Nah, I think even if there was other games out, this game still would have been getting the critiques that it's getting, because again, it's a very attractive looking female character that you're playing as, so it's always going to get that attention, I think.
And forgive me, one last thing I want to throw out: the designer of Eve in this game is known, I guess, in smaller communities for an RPG series that he developed called Magna Carta back on the PlayStation 2 and yes, on Xbox 360. So for anybody who's thinking that maybe this game was almost like, hey, we want attention for our game, this is actually something that the same character designer has been doing for like 25 years. Same energy. So that's the consistency that we should try to respect.
So Striker at 31 in the chat, he says, yeah, not having to pay for DLC compared to like Outlaw is nice too. So what's the deal here? So, and maybe Striker might be talking about something else at the same time here, but is DLC going to be coming? I mean, I don't know if he's referring to just the New Game Plus.
It's not confirmed. So.
Okay. I didn't think that was confirmed yet either. I played the demo, and Persona, I've had this conversation with you months and months ago. Neil Augusto goes, Mooch, you're not watching the draft? I'm doing a show!
I know. I'm thinking about it too, though.
How can I do a show?
Not gonna lie.
And watch the draft.
NFL draft?
Sports. Yeah. Sports, for goodness sake.
I ain't gonna lie, Mooch. I'm surprised you ain't canceled the show because the draft is happening. I'm very surprised.
My phone's blowing up, but I don't care. Listen, the show must go on at all costs. That's my rule. Persona, one of the things I said to you for a long time was I'm not a big fan of playing demos. Demos have always rubbed me the wrong way, and I'll give you an example, because me and you both like the game I'm about to bring up, but the demo didn't do it justice, for Spoken. And I thought the demo hurt that game more than it helped it. So I usually don't want to ruin the kind of the surprise of the game. And this time I said, you know what? Because it is going to be following that Nier / a lot of people are saying it's got a Sekiro kind of side to it, which I don't find that too much. I guess a little bit with the parrying, but like my whole point being is that I wanted to see if this mechanic was going to click with me, right? So the one thing that I enjoyed about it was I love the level design, I love the music, character was awesome, everything. I liked the enemies, the sets that they had, great. I did think some of the fighting was a little bit it just felt like the timing was just a little bit off, and now I'm hearing that they corrected some of that, Persona, that half second. When you were playing through, and Kofi, I want to get your take too, Persona, did you feel the mechanics were spot on in the demo, or was there a little bit of something missing that you think this day one patch is going to fix?
Yeah, no, there definitely was a bit of a delay when it came to certain parrying moves, because when I was fighting the boss in the boss challenge, I know my reaction time was on point, but I wasn't getting the parry for certain hits, especially when they were doing like combo hits, like fast, rapid succession hits, and you try to parry all of it, I would still get hit. So there definitely was an input delay issue in the demo when it came to, certain moves and stuff like that. But that was really like the only issue for me. But they, Shift Up saying that's been fixed in the final version of the game. They put out a patch to fix all of that. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'll test that for myself when I play it this weekend. But that was really the only thing, and that was in the demo.
Yeah. So in Kofi, you said you did not play the demo?
Right. I have not.
Okay, so but you did order it, so you did order the game. That's on the way. Perfect timing as we kind of just go through our opinions on it. The great next gen players just joined us. You guys know him as Hunter over on X, otherwise known as Twitter back in the day, circa 2023. So Hunter, I'll let Hunter get his microphone all set up. Hunter has played the game in full. Guys, there's no spoilers. Relax. The minute I say somebody's played the game on the show, everyone's like, I gotta go. I don't want to hear anything. Listen. Hunter is one of the first people on Twitter that he'll blow a gasket if somebody does anything like that with spoilers. So you're not going to get any spoilers here. This is going to be a top level review of just some of the things that maybe he experienced that are really, really cool in the game, and some of the things he may be looking forward to as we kind of move forward into this day one patch. Hunter, you're muted. I just want to make sure that you can hear. I know you're coming in. You're coming in hot, so I just want to make sure.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, Hunter. Yes.
Oh, sweet.
Listen, the show has been waiting for you. They're very excited. I know that you have your written review. You have an outstanding written review that you put together. Before you give the actual grade to the game, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Stellar Blade and kind of how you went from the demo to the full game and your thoughts as you went through. And I hate to piggyback a third question, what you think this day one patch will bring to the game for us.
Yeah, so I've been playing the game now for a couple of weeks. I beat the game. Took me like 33 hours to beat the game. Now, keep in mind that I was doing as much of the side content as I could, so I didn't actually finish everything because it's not really a spoiler, but just a heads up to everyone that there is sort of like a point of no return. Most games have that. Most games will have a pop-up just saying like, hey, like if you proceed, you might not be able to complete some quests. Usually in some of these games, like you can't, it means that you can't do side quests for like 3 or 4 hours while you're in a main mission, but then later you can get back to those. Like there's like end game content, but that's not the case in Stellar Blade. Like there's literally like a point of no return, and if you don't complete side quests, so I think I had probably like maybe a dozen or so side quests that actually failed. Like you got a mission list and it said failed, and I was like, oh crap, that sucks. But I have to say, like when I played the demo, I was like super impressed, of course, just like everyone with all the graphics. I thought everything looks amazing. This finally looks like a current gen game, only built on PlayStation 5. Like so many other games we play just didn't look like what you'd expect on a PlayStation 5, right? But this game delivers graphically. I thought the gameplay when I played the demo was really tough. I beat the main part of the demo no problem, but then when you had that like special challenge boss, that boss like crushed me so easily. But I have to say, like after going through the game now, I definitely don't think it's nowhere near as hard as that demo. I think the demo they ratchet up the difficulty, and plus the other thing too is like in the demo you don't actually have access to a lot of the skills and the equipment. Like you actually end up you can unlock 4 different gears, which gives you a whole bunch. There's like maybe like 50 or so different gears that I collected. They do everything from like make your attack speed go up to increasing your defense to taking off more shield off the enemies. So once you start equipping all these things, and you can increase your health, you can increase your beta energy. Like I was playing on normal. This is like the weird stupid thing. Like I just a lot of, especially like Japanese and Korean games do this. I don't really like it, but the hard mode's locked from the beginning, so you only can play on normal or like this easy story mode.
Yes,
I played on normal. It was tough, but I know like there was comparisons I saw to like Sekiro, Dark Souls. Like I was like,
a lot of people. Hunter, a lot of people are saying that. I'm hearing mixed. That's like the biggest controversy out there I'm seeing as far as gaming related. Is this really like a Sekiro? Is it just the parrying that kind of gives it that Souls? How is it Souls like?
It's okay. So it's not like there's certain elements of Souls games, but a lot of games are doing it these days, and they're not really Souls like games. So, for example, like when you sleep in a camp, the Natiba enemies, they repopulate. So I mean, like you can clear an area, go to a camp, and like suddenly everyone's back again. So that part's a little bit Souls-like. But here's the thing. Okay, you can basically tailor the gameplay to your skill. Okay, so if you want it to be a little bit more Souls-like, it's definitely not as hard as Sekiro. Like, no, Sekiro is like a 10 out of 10 difficulty. This was like even like with all of the perks like dialed down, probably like maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10 difficulty. But here's the thing: like so you've got a parry system. And you've got a dodge system, and there's also things like one's called repulse, which is like if the enemy flashes blue, you can jump backwards, you can kick them while you're flipping backwards. That opens up their weak spot, which then you can shoot with your gun, deal significant damage. There's also a thing called a blink, where if the enemy flashes blue, you can like actually like basically teleport behind them and then get in like 4 or 5 shots, right? So there's all these different things you have to master. But the thing is, like, in the upgrade tree, you can actually make all of these easier. There's literally a skill that's like make parrying easier, make dodging easier. Like it literally like increases the window that you have to do it. And not only that, but then as I mentioned, there's gears that you can set into you have like an exo spine or whatnot. You can slot these gears into it. Yeah. So the thing is, like, you can actually get gears that will also make it easier to do these things. I got a gear that, like, I think it was like, add another 20% onto my parrying window, right?
Oh,
so
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so you could, like, if you want it to be hard, then don't get those skills in the skill tree. Like, don't put those gears in. You can leave the pairing system the way you want. But if you want a little bit easier, if you want to, like, not die 20 times on the bosses, you can put these skills in. And the other thing too, like, I tried it out just to see, but the other thing, that if you want to make it even like super easy, and this would make it like probably like a 4 out of 10 difficulty, is like there's a like an accessibility feature in the game where you can actually make it so that the enemy, when they attack you, it's basically like a quick time moment. So when they attack you, you actually have like 3 seconds to hit the parry button, or you've got like 3 seconds to hit the dodge button. So you can literally do that, and that makes that's for people that just want to play the story.
What was the game that just came out? What is it that I'm drawing a blank on, Hunter? As you're saying this, Persona. There was a game that just came out recently that Hunter's explaining. I don't understand. I played it. I think I beat the game. Where you had the option where you could put certain things on your character, and it would make you like super strong. And I just decided I was not going to do that because I wanted to play the game more difficult. It just came out maybe like within 6 months ago.
Isn't it Final Fantasy 16?
16, yes, it was Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah,
Thank
it was
you.
16. They had that auto dodge, didn't they?
Yeah, I left all of those things off the entire game because I wanted more of a challenge.
You should have saw the expression on my face when it was an equipable. I was like, what? Like, I was reading, I'm like,
yeah,
dodge automatic. Like, I just couldn't even wrap my head around.
I was like, what is that? I'm like, I don't. Thank you, guy. Oh, the chat's blowing up. Final Fantasy 6. I'm like, I could not remember. I wanted to say Rebirth. I'm like, it's not Rebirth. Yeah. I was gonna say Final Fantasy, but I'm like, it can't be Final Fantasy. It was Final, but I was like, no, I legitimately. So I'm glad you're saying this, Hunter. And I know Persona. I don't want to speak for Persona or Kofi, but I like to play the games on a more difficult manner. So I mean, I would probably elect not to choose those, but the fact that they're there, that's fine. That's totally fine. But I mean, do you feel like the game presents itself with enough of a challenge? Not using those make them a bit easy, I think, or make it a lot easier. Is there enough of a challenge in the game, Hunter?
Oh, for sure. If you don't have those, yeah, of course, okay, for sure. Right. Like it's not going to be impossible, but yeah, it's certainly a lot more challenging. And I would say, like, maybe it leans a little bit towards Sekiro, but it's nowhere near as difficult as that game is. But like the one thing that I was really surprised about with this game is that, okay, so if you guys remember the demo, she's like, so Eve goes down to Earth, and she's got to take on the Alpha Nativas. Her job is to like wipe out the Alpha Nativas. Those are like the biggest, baddest, strongest bosses. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I couldn't believe with this game is like, okay, so you beat the first boss in the demo, and then Tachi is like, she's like, that was not an alpha. That was just like an elite Natiba, right?
Mhm.
And there are so many bosses in this game and they have like there's awesome like it's kind of like Dark Souls introductions, right? Like
Yep.
they like crash through walls and like smash through things, and it's really dramatic how they show
Love
up,
it.
and it's awesome, and there's so many times where I was fighting this boss, and it was like a gargantuan, grotesque thing that I was like, this has to be an alpha Natiba. Like there's no way. And then you beat the boss, and then it adds it to your data bank, and it was like another elite. Like I fought like 3 or 4 elites in a row, and I was like, where are these? Like how big and how bad and how powerful are these alphas? Because like the elite ones are they are like they're like I guess they're supposed to be like sub bosses, but they're as big and as badass as like main bosses in other games. So yeah, the last like I guess like 3 or 4 bosses, oh my gosh, they're hard. The last boss, like it is hard. It is very hard.
Well, that's kind of what you want to ramp up to. So Hunter, without any further ado, what did you give the game as far as a grade?
I thought I loved it, man. I thought I had high expectations for this game, and it met all of my expectations, and in some ways, I think even exceeded it. So I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Okay, so you gave it a 9 out of 10. What do you think when you see? Because me and Persona were just talking about how we played the demo and how we feel that what is coming tomorrow in that update on the day 1 patch of having it be a little bit more precise with the timing of your attack and your timing of your parry. That seems to be something that a lot of players noticed. You, Hunter, played through this with a review copy without that patch. So, I mean, was that something that was troubling, or you really didn't notice it, or you adjusted? You made an adjustment.
I made an adjustment. So here's the thing that like I noticed that there was an input lag for sure, but I still noticed that every time the enemy would attack, if I hit the parry button, it parried like almost every time, as long as I hit it when I was supposed to, right? I didn't really notice like it impacted my gameplay in any way. So I was kind of confused. I'm like, I'm seeing the animation half a second after I push the button, but I'm still parrying like exactly when I would want to. So I actually I noticed that there was an interview today with the developer, and they actually said that in the current way, the current build of the game, the build that I played, every time you hit your button, the game actually registers that exactly at that second. So there actually is no input lag in that. What the lag is the animation. So
Okay.
I had no issues, because when I wanted to parry, I'd hit my button and I parried. It's just that my animation was delayed by half a second, so it kind of looked a little weird on screen. I'm really interested to find out what this day 1 patch is going to be like. Like, I guess there's going to be no delay. The animation will just like hit right away.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
it's going to.
Really
Are they? Yeah. So if I take what you said right now, and then I take what the update is supposed to be, it sounds like they've shortened the animation then.
Yeah, exactly. The time that the game actually registers your attack, I think, is probably going to be the exact same. It's just the animations can be sped up.
Well, I think that there's nothing wrong with that. Now, how many outfits were you able to acquire next gen? The real questions people want to know.
Oh, dude, I was so upset because I heard that there was like 30 plus.
Yeah.
Right? 30 plus outfits. I beat the game, and like you said, I tried to get like as much of the side quest done as possible. I counted, and I had 22, and I was like, 30 plus, that means like 31, 32. Like I missed like 10 costumes. Where like there's collectibles. So I figured, I'm like, if I got like maybe 100% of the collectibles, maybe every collection I completed would give me an extra costume.
Yeah.
But so I got 22. But the thing is, like, I love the costumes. I think the costumes are fantastic. I had so much fun. I would like, some reviewers I talked to, they like switched their costumes like 2 or 3 times. I like almost every time I got a new costume, I switched it up. Because the thing that I love about this is just like in, say, like Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, or like Spider-Man 2, like when you switch it to a costume, that costume is reflected in all of the real-time cutscenes, right? And you can also change the costumes
Okay.
for Lily, and for Adam. And so I had a total blast because most of the conversations in the game are those three people sitting around chatting about things, and like almost like every few cutscenes, like they all look different. I had new costumes on everybody, and it's fun. Like it's just I'm surprised that there's controversy about this. When I played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, when I went to Costa del Sol, did I love the beachwear?
Yeah.
Of course I did.
Of course.
Of course, dude. I love dressing up people. I love when I play Spider-Man. Oh my god, I love dressing up. Miles Morales
Striker
and Peter Parker.
Striker says Mooch, he didn't do New Game Plus. New Game Plus comes out tomorrow. So
No, sorry. They released it yesterday, actually.
Oh, they did release it yesterday. Have you started?
Yeah, I've started. I'm like an hour and a half or so into New Game Plus.
I stand corrected, Striker. Then I thought that was coming out with the day one patch. I thought that was all part of the big day one patch. Apparently, it came out. Well, that's probably why Fighting Cowboy went back and streamed it again. He was saying that in his review, that he was looking forward to New Game Plus, and then it came out early. So that does hold water. Shout out to Striker. Shout out to Blaze 4K, by the way. He'll be joining us this weekend as we go back to Elden Ring over on Mooch TV, over on Twitch TV. Next Gen Player, I wanted to get more in depth with you on this game, but you know what we'll do? Listen, the game comes out tomorrow. So a lot of us will be playing it, and I know that maybe we'll be able to get a little bit more in depth on some of the New Game Plus, some of the other things. Is there anything else that people should know about this game before we go for tonight? Because I did keep the great Persona and the great Kofi here well over the 2 hour mark here. What do you think, Hunter? Is there anything that you would want an audience to know from your review before they buy? That's, of course, not a spoiler.
Well, if you like Bayonetta, if you like Devil May Cry, if you like those types of games, like if you like Nier Automata, like you got to play this game. It's like it's on par with that. The one thing that I will say that I'm like absolutely shocked about is like I read like some of the reviews, and some of the reviews were like praising the lore and the story, but a lot of the bigger sites, I know IGN and a few others were like, yeah, the story like totally fell flat. I'm shocked. Like I'm shocked about that. I think there's a lot of like optional stuff, and there's an entire like optional area that you can go to that's very story driven if you do like certain things in the game. So I would just say, like, my recommendation to everybody is just like really pay attention to the story, do the side content. There's like literally hundreds of things that you can read. Like there's collectibles that you can get. Read this stuff because like I thought the lore was great. I'm actually like there were times where I was like my jaw was dropping. I was like, this is like what's really happening in this game. Like it is totally not what you think. That's all I'm gonna say. So you play this game, and it's totally not what the characters are not who you think they are. The world's not the way you think it is. It is like shockingly awesome in good ways, and just read everything and do all the side quests for sure.
Well, there you go, guys. Honestly, I really wanted to have Hunter come on it, and I promised you guys an in-depth look into this game. I honestly am looking very much forward to it, Hunter. And I saw your review. I kind of played dumb there and said, you know what? I want Hunter to actually put out his review without me talking about it or giving any numbers away. But nonetheless, sounds like it's a must buy. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. I do think an 82 is a good score. We didn't really get a chance to get into it too much on how much maybe certain other things kind of affected some of the scoring. Because everyone I've talked to that have played it and all the people that I really watch, like Fighting Cowboy, yourself, there's 2 or 3 others that have like played the game. They all were like, it's great. And I'm like, okay, then if it's great, I would think it would have scored maybe somewhere in the 85 to 90 range, and or even 88, but seemingly 82. But nonetheless, you can't really let, like Persona said earlier in the show, he's like, I've enjoyed games that were 67, I've enjoyed games that were 77, 78. It doesn't really matter. It really depends on the genre, the style, the fighting style, the lore. A lot of different aspects come into it before you actually say, I want to play this game. So, Hunter, I know that you had a busy night. I know you just kind of snuck in here last second. I want to say thank you for being here, buddy. Let people know where they can find you, and I appreciate you coming in late notice.
Thanks, Mooch. I have so much fun when I'm here. You guys can check me out on Twitter. It's Next Gen Player. So, yeah, check me out. I try to tweet all the hottest news every day. Of course, I got a little slant on PlayStation, so a little bit more PlayStation news, but I try to tweet out as much as I can. So check it out.
Appreciate that, Hunter. And again, thanks. Next time you're on the show, I definitely want to give you a larger segment here because I love when you're talking about games. You're so charismatic. You're so into the game. You love video games. You travel across the world for video games at least once a year. I know you do that. So it's just exciting to have you on the show because it just ramps up the best part of the show, which is gaming. Speaking of that, let me just go ahead and tell you guys, if I haven't said it enough, go over and check out Persona and the great Jay Bari as well, coming up Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday with What's Up PlayStation. But Persona, thank you for being here tonight, buddy. We had some great dialogue. You know, sometimes you come on and I have like 10 people on the show. Tonight was one of those nights we had we fluctuated between 4 and 6, and we got some really good dialogue, some good back and forth in gaming. And it's just one of the best things to do on podcasting that we should do more of. Persona, let people know where they can find you, and thanks for being here tonight.
Yes, sir. Yo, first off, man, big shout out to you, Mooch, man. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Thank
Always
you.
appreciate the invites. Always appreciate coming through, man, chopping it up on your channel and on your platform.
Yes,
so
sir.
shout out to you. Shout out to the people that came through too, man. You know, the panel was good chopping up with you guys as well. Shout out to the chat. You know, make sure you guys hit the like button on the way out. And yeah, man, for me, man, I am Persona, man. You can follow me on Twitter at Persona Speaks, man. And yeah, What's Up PlayStation Podcast, man. This Saturday, me and Bari, we are going to be interviewing Barrett, John Eric Bentley. He's going to be on the show. He's going to be our special guest this week on What's Up PlayStation Podcast. So we're going to talk to him about Final Fantasy Remake, Final Fantasy Rebirth. It's going to be a good conversation. Yeah, man. Thanks, man. So it's going to be a really cool conversation, man. So really excited to talk with him. And obviously, you know, we're going to talk about everything else as well with the news. But yeah, man, thank you guys so much. And I hope you guys have a great night. Be safe.
Persona and Bari always knocking it out of the park, guys. Go over and check them guys out and follow them over there. Follow them on Twitter, follow them on X, however you want to call it. And then please go over and follow them on YouTube. The great Kofi was with us. And Kofi, you know, me and you, like I said, we tried to make our folks talk to each other so we can organize a podcast. But Kofi, I love having you on as well, man. This was just one of those great, and this is legitimately a gaming podcast, man. We talk games all night. And the enthusiasm, it just comes through you naturally. So, Kofi, let everybody know where they can find you, buddy. And, you know, probably within the next couple of days, I'll just be bothering you again to come on the show.
I would love to come back. I can't wait to talk a bunch of games I'm finally getting ordered. I've been a little bit behind because of work, so I'm glad that I'm really back on the gaming scene as of April and May. But, well, first of all, yes, thank you for having me on. I'm definitely going to be bookmarking that interview, Persona, because I'm just enjoying Rebirth so much. So to get some insight on the actor, that is totally awesome.
Yeah,
I also have some good news. I am returning to a podcast I started with my best friend back in 2019 called the Vitamin G Podcast. Our theme is that one owner of each, or one, we have 4 individual players, but everybody has their own specific console they prefer. So a PC guy, a PlayStation guy, Xbox, Nintendo, and we all kind of debate it out, and current events and IPs and all those fun things. So that's Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I definitely will be tweeting out those informations. It's been a little while, so I'm definitely excited to get back on that. And the other is I'm always talking, you know, what imported games are coming out in Japan first, and then what my thoughts on them will be for a later release. So there is a game in July coming out called Renatus, and it's getting a lot of hype because many developers, Persona knows it. Many developers from Final Fantasy, what was known as Final Fantasy Versus 13, which we know became 15, are developing characters that have been seen in the gameplay. And this is a developer that has had I won't say like they're not underrated, but they've had some ups and downs. I'll say that. They've had some good games. They've had some games that aren't so good, but I'm ready to support them. And in July, it comes out in July for Japan, and then like October for the US. So I'm going to be playing that in July and sharing my thoughts. So definitely follow me on Twitter. Creative_Kofi if I didn't say that.
Looking forward to it, Kofi. Great to see you coming back to the podcast realm yourself, buddy. I always encourage that, guys. Get out there and speak your mind. Always good to have another gamer out there in these gaming streets on the microphone. Guys, I also want to take a second here and just take a minute to say thank you to Mash again. Mash gifted, I lost count. You know, Matt's my strong subject, Mash, and I got to tell you, you know, I can't remember if it was 20 or 30. The man's amazing. Keeps giving to the community week in and week out. So, Mash, I thank you so very much. And shout out to the great True Witty. I apologize. I always look over at my super chats. I missed this one. He says, have these people ever seen a girl if not go outside? Of course, when we were talking about the great Stellar Blade. That being said, guys, I'm interested in whether or not you guys are going to be picking up this game. So we'll talk more about it next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And again, guys, if you want to hang out with me, Sin Vendetta, and the great Blaze 4K, I recommend that you go over to twitch.tv, Mooch TV, drop the O's for zeros, M00CHTV. Same as here, same as on X, and same over on Twitch. We are going to be streaming Saturday, Sunday, Elden Ring. We're getting ready for that June DLC. That being said, guys, I hope that you enjoy your weekend. Go over and watch where your team landed in the pick sports. But we are going to be talking games next week like we do every week. Guys, enjoy yourselves. We'll see you next time. Peace out and good night.